So I know this setup looks a little interesting to some people because I have an interesting friend of mine to chat with tonight. This setup looks a little interesting to some people. I know, and his name is Art. Art is an artist, and he has a lot of really interesting discussions. But the thing about it is, he likes to create art while he's having the chat and let people try to figure out what he's doing. Now, here is some of the stuff that he's done on his channel. I want everybody, by the way, go here, subscribe. The good thing about YouTube is there's room for everybody, so we can all be friends, and you can watch his stuff sometimes and my stuff sometimes. And I tell everybody the same thing. Don't worry if you don't like what he does after a month, unsubscribe, just like you would with me. Art, say hello. Let them know you're not a ghost.
Yes, I am here. I'm a real person. Do not change your television.
So here's the thing. I don't know if anybody knows what we're talking about yet, and I'm not trying to call you foolish, but I want to do a quick definition of terms before we go forward on what brain drain is, because it's more than just a saying. People say, "Oh, brain drain." Here is what brain drain is. A quick definition: large-scale immigration with technical skill and knowledge. The meaning: the departure of highly qualified people, scientists, engineers. I disagree with that. There are more for other countries where they have better opportunities and usually better pay. Many developing countries, is an example, many developing countries suffer brain drain where talented people move to places like Europe or the US. That's an old definition. That's a definition that I don't think really works anymore. And I'm going to use Brazil as an example. Brazil and its relationship to brain drain. Brazil is just we're going to use that as a stand-in. We're going to use that as just a proxy for any country that you can think of. Because one of the things I've learned here in Brazil, when I've dealt with the American expat community, is the people who left the United States are always the most desirable American. Well, what do I mean when I say that? They're not just the engineers and the doctors. They're the entrepreneurs. They're the ones that start their own businesses. They're the ones who run websites. They're the ones who have technical skills on how to do something involving a company or even manual labor. And they leave America and realize life abroad with the skills they have can be just as difficult, just as hard to work. But they have the benefit of a much higher salary and fewer worries, especially if you come from a community. And I'm going to put myself out there. And then Art, this is where I want to really tell you guys who Art is and why I asked him to chat with me tonight. I grew up, I'm Generation X. I'm an old school nerd. I was wearing X-Men t-shirts when they would still get you beat up at school, before it was cool. I can tell you that for me and my contemporaries in my age group, a lot of us left. A lot of us who got out, got educated, and realized, well, wait a minute. Why should I stay here and endure being the oddball in a place where I'm not appreciated when I can go overseas and do the same thing for better remuneration? But what I kept finding out over and over again, there used to be a stereotype about the people who left America. Oh, they want to go someplace where it's easier and where people with fewer skills can succeed. But after the year 2000, when the people like me on my end of the spectrum, so to speak, really made that come up, the whole game changed. All right, I don't want to talk over you, but at the same time, I know you're concentrating on what you're doing.
I'm listening. I'm listening, taking it in.
Well, tell them why I brought you in. Tell them a little bit about your situation, why I felt you're qualified to talk with us.
From what I gather, you know, when you are pretty much taking on a task of trying to improve your situation, to grow intellectually, physically, or what have you, sometimes you tend to be pushed out of a group that's not really doing as much in your area. So sometimes you try to stick around, but at the same time you start to, I don't know, you start to get smothered. It's kind of hard for you to really move around. So you have to expand somewhere else to grow. So in this instance, you might have to go another state, another country, or what the hell. It might even get to the point where you have to go on Mars. But it got to be some way to where you have to grow. And that's the thing. Some people could grow in certain areas and pretty much, you know, just shove things off their shoulder or whatever. But others, they would have to expand. So we talked about James Baldwin, you know, I talked about definitely Jimi Hendrix and Josephine Baker and all these kind of people. And I'm not saying that just because you're going out, it's going to be, you know, a walk in the park, but at least you have some kind of room to have that release on who you are as a person and how much you want to grow, you know. So
But Art, there's something interesting about those people you just named. Did you just name a bunch of black people?
yes, sir.
Why is that?
Yeah, because usually that's one of the things that people are focusing on for the most part, is that you are, you know, it's you got to remember, you know, the whole slavery experience. It's almost like you're trying to rebuild something that's been taken away from you. Some people are okay with the whole making lemonade out of lemons, where some people may want to go out and rebuild themselves from based on the greatness that's in them, that they know that's in them. So that's when you have that argument on what is great and what is not great. And you know, usually black folks are usually in that conversation, especially the, you know, African American. They're usually in that conversation. So you're typically looking at education, government. Hell, remember Dizzy Gillespie? He did the same thing. You know, art, politics, law. You know, a lot of people had to really expand. Hell, remember Martin Luther King, right? He went overseas. Remember that?
But here's my question. Oh, by the way, for people who may not know who Dizzy Gillespie was, he was a band leader, a trumpeter, and one of my favorite songs that he did, I'm going to show everybody this, was called Olinga. And if you Google Dizzy Gillespie music, I would actually say just go in and just start downloading. Just straight up, just straight up go in and start downloading whatever you can, and you will like it. You will like it. Dizzy Gillespie is just that good.
And he expanded a lot of his stuff in Cuba. He has a song called Manteca. It'll really give you like an understanding that this man was diverse. Wasn't he from New York?
I don't know where Dizzy Gillespie was.
I mean, look up. I mean, I'm not sure, but I think he was from New York. I'm not sure. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, my whole thing is expansion. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this conversation is expanding yourself and really finding out the potential that's in you. And some people have the choice to come back and bring it back and show people what you've learned. And yeah, some people pretty much stay and you know, live a good life somewhere else. Grace, hell, look at what Grace Jones, all these different people, man.
Well, as I, by the way, he was born in Cheraw, South Carolina.
Oh, he's from the South. Okay, my bad. Okay.
Hey, John, as a matter of fact, I am. And when this paint dries, it's going to be something fabulous. And Chris said, makes total sense to leave the U.S. and get respect elsewhere, unfortunately. I'll tell people what my experience has been traveling the world as an expat, but doing the whole brain drain thing. In every other country in the world, I am a businessman, I am a writer, ghostwriter, I am an American, but I'm black, like second, third, or fourth sometimes, because the other qualities that I earned for myself tend to outrank what I was born as. Now, being an American does tend to come above all that, but I'm an educated American before everything else. And what I keep finding over and over again, as I really look into some of the most successful black people we know, if you really start to Google your heroes, you'd be shocked to find out how many of them don't live in the United States anymore. How many of them, as soon as they got any situation in life where they had any mobility, they picked up their family and left. And it's awkward because what ends up happening is I see how brain drain negatively affects our communities. And I'll use myself as an example in my city. For those who don't know, I'm from a city called Niagara Falls, New York. Art, what do you know about Niagara Falls?
Just the first Superman. That's about it. When Lois Lane, oh no, second Superman. I'm sorry, when she jumped out there and Superman had to save Lois Lane. But go ahead. That's how ignorant I am with Niagara Falls. But continue.
Okay. Well, Niagara Falls, New York, I would say a few generations ago, let's call it 2, was a place where there were factories and opportunity. The immigration from the South filled those places with workers. And are you familiar with Love Canal?
No, not even that.
Okay. For those of you who just heard me say the words Love Canal, if you know what it is, you kind of just clenched up. Your skin shuddered. You see, Love Canal was one of the greatest ecological man-made disasters in American history.
Okay.
Let's see. What does Snuggle say? The brain drain affects you when other places take the resources from you. Yes, that's where we're going with this. Yes. She said, there's a brain drain in Africa, and there's brain drain draining the Caribbean of what Western society took from those countries. She's right. And now all the natives are going to Western countries to get resources because of what was taken. She's right. She's absolutely just nailing it spot on. I'm going to show you something. Actually, I'm going to read you a quick paragraph. Love Canal was a neighborhood in Niagara Falls, New York. The neighborhood was infamously known as the location of a 70-acre, let me say that again, 70-acre landfill, which became the cause of massive environmental pollution, disaster, harming the health of hundreds of residents, culminating in an extensive Superfund cleanup operation that didn't work because there are people who are dying of diseases that should be rare. Niagara Falls became known as a place where doctors and epidemiologists were studying diseases that shouldn't have clusters, because what they did in Niagara Falls, what the government did with that 70-acre landfill was pad it over with beautiful grass and sell those houses to poor people. And in the United States, as in Brazil, if you're poor, you're also probably Black. So what ended up happening? Countless birth defects, children born with horrific problems, people developing cancers within a year or two that riddled their whole body, people excreting things from their body that shouldn't be excreted. So what ends up happening to Niagara Falls? Well, let's say every school you know of graduates students. Well, those students, let's say you have the A students, the B students, the C students, the D students, and the F students. Well, the A and the B students are smart enough to know that they can go anywhere in the country or the world and be profitable. Do they stay in a place like Niagara Falls, New York, if they don't have to? I don't know anybody who went out and got an education and came back. No, I know a few. And as we grew up, they told me how much they hated and regretted it. But here's why brain drain kills communities. The people who are left to run the communities were the C students, the D students, and the F students. And that's where Snuggles 668 talks about, yeah, it kills communities. I'm looking at that picture you're drawing at the same time, and if anybody can tell me in the comments who they think he's drawing, that's because I think I know, but I still can't see it. In any case, let's see what BK says. Maybe not so awkward. Most brains and intellectuals want to better themselves and improve what they see as being competitive. If they don't have the resources they need in the US, they'll leave. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too, brother, is if you look at sports, usually, you know, they really find it important to really cultivate the whole ideology of having cheerleaders around these major sports. You know, there's always a cheering session, right? But it's funny, you don't have that with people that's trying to really be on top of their intellectual and professional game. You know, and that kind of, I really think about that sometimes. It's like, you know, in our areas, you know, we don't have enough people to really support that. So yeah, people tend to go elsewhere where you have some kind of support, even if it's not authentic, you know, as far as their grassroots. But you know, I think that's one of the things that's missing, because when you know you have people supporting you, then that does make you want to continue and be strong with that. Does that make, I wonder if that makes sense to people out there in the chat.
I think it does. Well, look at what Christopher James Young said. If you have great education and nowhere to make a buck afterwards, you'll get brain drained. Yeah, that's a gritty way to say it. I think that Black and brown people have it a little bit worse, because when you factor in how much better you blossom in a place where you're not hunted for sport by the police, or know that there is no recourse for you if something bad happens to you. It's an awkward feeling to do what James Baldwin said. You know, James Baldwin, and if anybody, if anyone hasn't seen the documentary, I Am Not Your Negro. I Am Not Your Negro is a phenomenal documentary narrated by none other than Samuel L. Jackson. Go watch this. If you don't know where to get this, anybody can privately message me and I'll show you where to get it. And it's, oh, come on, man. Christopher said it looks like you're drawing a Thundercat.
It's all good, man. I hear a lot of stuff when I'm drawing, man. You know, I have this thing about the top 5 stupidest things to say to an artist while they're working, but I ain't gonna go into that.
well, look at what John Nothing said. He said that sounds like government experiments.
Yeah.
I wish I could call you crazy. I wish I could say, oh, that's stupid. But John is right. There is a 50-50 shot that was totally intentional, because no one accidentally put 70 acres worth of toxic waste in a place and then tells people to live there. Not like they just hid it and someone discovered it. They told people, here, live here.
I mean, look at Flint. You know, I mean, there's a lot of places where some people are really getting poisoned and being, what do you call it? Just being depleted, but they're still ignoring the fact that we don't do this stuff. We don't put this stuff out there. We don't have the means for that. And I don't think when we're saying this, we're not sitting on our toughest, just complaining. We at least point it out so you can do something about it. You know. But who am I? I'm just a regular teacher, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, now here's where you became really qualified as somebody I wanted to talk to, because you've got, well, how many years of teaching experience?
24 years.
24 years of teaching experience.
Mm-hmm.
Young minds out into the world. You had students that you've seen grow up and become adults.
Yep.
David Pitts is observing the discussion. David, you know the door is always open. If you want to come up, let me know. After 24 years of watching, do you see children who realize they weren't born into their tribe? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Why don't we use a new toy? Check that out. What did I say? Were you born into the right community? Were there people who were not born into the correct community who had to make the decision to leave the one they were born into? Does that happen? Can we say that maybe I was born into a community that at one time fit me, but as I made my life better, subjectively, better, I had to leave that community?
Yeah, I mean, we have that a lot. And even, like I said, leaving a community does not necessarily that you're going out of the country. Sometimes it's just another state. You know, sometimes it's somewhere else to where you need to grow and to really expand. And that's the thing, is that some people say that misery loves company. To that person, if they're in misery or whatever, either you're going to sit there and, you know, self-destruct, or you're going to go somewhere and recharge. And then maybe if you care enough, you come back and help those that probably need help that you can remember. Or again, some people pretty much treat it like Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, I had a student. I don't really talk about her that much, but I'm gonna try to get her on my channel one day. She, I had her since ninth grade. I had her off for 4 years. She, we used to call her Tiger Woods because she looked like I kid you not, she looked like a female Tiger Woods. Okay, so but she was one of my top art students, and so during the time when I was really starting, I think she came in my fourth or fifth year teaching, and it was weird because she was very, 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 intelligent, well spoken. I mean, she sounded very articulate, that kind of thing, and sound very innocent. And so, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Rise, the documentary of the crump dancers and all this kind of stuff. She had a crush on one of the main guys in that movie. Well, long story short on her, when I started meeting the parents or her mom was heavy on drugs. Her mom was on crack. And I'm sitting there, and it's a trip because you do have a lot of people that are in the hood that's very intelligent, very articulate. And I'm sitting there like, wow, and then I guess after she graduated, I found out she left, of course she left the hood, and she wound up moving to Japan and marrying a Japanese man.
Shout out to Japan. I miss Tokyo.
Yeah.
There's a young woman I know who came to me for some guidance, and she had a big advantage in life in that at one point when she was young, she got to do like a month exchange trip to another country. I'm being intentionally vague because she may come on and I don't want to put her in an awkward position. But when she went back home, she realized, I don't have to live this way. Her parents were what I would call average Americans, meaning they never had enough money, life was hard, they had vices. But because she had seen more of the world, she was told, listen, you can earn your way back into a situation like this. And that's where the split began. And she calls me just to cry sometimes. She had to leave a lot of people that she loved behind when she decided to better herself. She learned a second language and just vanished. She literally ghosted on them because she couldn't tell these people, I'm going to do better in life, because she wasn't surrounded by people that were going to say, hey, good job, go for it.
Yeah, so the big argument on some areas is when you do discuss this, do you leave quietly or do you make an announcement like loud, like I'm leaving, that kind of thing? Is that, because that's the thing that I've been noticing is like, okay, are you going to make like a grand exit, or are you going to be like that guy in some of these cartoons that put the cape over his face and say, I'll be back, poof, with a smoke or whatever, and then disappear?
Well, for me, I left home 2 weeks after my 18th birthday, and I had been plotting with teachers and administrators and people to get to any college program I could. And when I left, I told everybody goodbye, but it wasn't like they couldn't have predicted that I knew I was probably not going to come back. And once I finished my first degree, I was like, oh, no, I realize I can succeed. Let's look at BK from the Rockies. He said, I was born and raised in the southern U.S., but moved to the Rockies because I wanted an environment that did more than just church and eating. The South isn't the healthiest place to live. He said just church and eating. Damn.
Shout out to BMT.
Hey, how you doing, BMT?
Yeah, and shout out to a reigning woman, my twin. She says a lot of things I would say.
Here's something interesting. David Pitts, dear brother David Pitts, he said, can genetics overcome environment? Could you be in a horrible environment and still succeed if your genetics were good? Because by genetics, and I want to be clear, Dave, do you want to come up and say hello if you can? by genetics, are we talking about IQ? Because we're not talking about your ability to bench press or kick. When we talk about the people who are able to leave, we're generally talking about people who have a bit of a foresight. Christopher James Young said, Dave, genetics and environment are traditionally related. That's true. It's the percentages. John Nothing, a lot of folks can't afford to move out, barely can afford where they're at. He's right. Now, and I'm going to say something, and I'm going to lose some people on this one. So I'll preface this by saying, if you're watching this, be sure to click subscribe and hit the bell and share this somewhere. Share this on your social media. That's how I get to meet so many amazing people. Share it on your Twitter, your Facebook. Share it on your Tinder profile. Tell people, hey, after we get done banging, can we have a conversation like this? Just share it someplace. John says a lot of folks can't afford to move out, barely can afford where they're at. In 2020, are there not options for anyone with a cell phone to learn something, just something, to get them out of where they're at, to maybe help them make, let's say, 10% more money, no matter how poor you are? Because when I see stories about guys I know from the middle of some of the most bereft places in sub-Saharan Africa who got a cell phone that they charged with a solar battery, taught themselves cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and worked their way from $1 to 50 and from 50 to 100, and now they've got a couple hundred US dollars that makes them essentially rich in his neighborhood. When I hear that, I don't, and we come from, if you're from the United States, you've got the best of every option. Am I being too hard?
Not at all. It depends on what people are looking for. And I always make this joke, but it seems like you need, in school these days, you have to take a class on how to learn rather than just going to school to learn. I think you have to learn how to learn because people are picking and choosing. And we got brother Gab Talk Media up in here, real conversation with Gab. Good brother. That's the thing that I'm looking at, because when you mention the whole thing about social media, you already know what people are choosing to look at. They want to see people go at each other, or they want to see some kind of drama. And people don't understand that takes a lot of time out of your schedule, and it goes into your subconscious. So you're literally going to bed with lots of people fighting in your head, but you're not going to bed learning how to do things based on what science, spirituality, any of those things, or how to, have some revolutionize your taxes or balance a check. But there's a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube alone to show you how to break a lot of that stuff down. My son literally, because he was struggling in some classes, so we were going on YouTube and they were showing him how to do different shortcuts and things on what the teacher wasn't teaching. This is what we're not really taking advantage of. We're only just looking at other things that have nothing to do with our growth.
BK also said, truth, bettering yourself is almost always guaranteed to cause you to live. I think he means leave people in your life behind. It is what it is. Let me read that again because that hits home. Truth, bettering yourself is almost always guaranteed to cause you to leave people in your life behind. It is what it is. And that's the painful part, when you wake up and realize I can't have a foot in both places. If I'm going to make it, I've got to make it. And I truly believe that old-fashioned saying, you're a mixture of your 5 closest friends, right? Your 5 closest friends can't include somebody who's not trying to get better or who's doing things to hurt themselves.
And you got to
real quick plug. I'll tell people this. One of the things that I try to do is pay it forward, the stuff that helped me. I have an entire Bitcoin money section. The last one I did was a Bitcoin annual review with my buddy Laris. I hope you all get a chance to check that out. This is the last one. But that's the thing, is when you realize there are people you love, and that's it. They're going to get left behind. But let me back up for a second. Real conversation with Gab. Gab, let me back up for a second. I'm trying to think if I've seen any of your videos. Let me go make sure that we'll look at your channel. Welcome, and if you haven't, please subscribe. If you're okay by art, you're okay by me.
Yeah, me and Gab pretty much say the same stuff on YouTube. So we try to do the whole balancing thing. Sometimes we get hit on the chin, but you know, that's the part. I guess that's the stuff that we have to endure in order to get a certain type of result, to get people to get people to come together and really think and understand what's going on and what to do. So shout out to Gab on that.
Gab, I've been seeing this in a lot of places, and I'm going to freely admit I was yesterday years old when Art told me what SYSBM meant.
Yeah.
Save yourself, black man. And I hope everybody goes and subscribes to Gab and gets another perspective. Gab, you're welcome.
Yeah, he's not a spokesperson for SYSBM, but he's the one that was really asking what it really means. So he was trying to get some kind of clarity and that kind of thing. And me personally, I'm not really a spokesperson for it anyway. But I find it very interesting to really just understand what we're in our communities, what we're talking about. So at least just understand what people are saying, so you'll be able to find something positive to contribute to the conversation, because I'm just not part of any movements. You know what I mean? I'm my own person. But yeah, that's the stuff that's been going on. You know, I mean, I'm barely. A lot of us didn't even know what gender fluid was until Billy D. Williams said it.
Well, I think he was misquoted, though. I think he did correct that. If I'm not mistaken, Billy D. Williams was terribly misquoted with it.
Yeah. Now that's the result. Think about that. The fact that he was misquoted means that, for what I'm seeing, is that he was not really listening to the conversation of what we talk about in our communities. So he got caught up in terminology and wasn't able to really elaborate to put his position as far as where he is in it or if he's not in it. So if you hear the conversation like, yeah, I'm gender fluid, blah, 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 and everybody's like, let me put that in the column. You know, he got caught up in it. You know what I mean? And you got to know what these things are, so you understand where your part is in on it, you know?
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you, but I kind of disagree with you. Because we have to remember there are people who are just intentionally chopping up your words to make sure that you're misinterpreted. There are people who make their money by saying that you said something that you didn't, because it just gets them a click. Look, even on CBS News, Billy D. Williams clarifies he is not gender fluid. I think Billy D. Williams is an old man who used to be an old player and sex symbol, who just knows how to smile at the camera, and when they say, "Are you sexual something?" he's like, "Yes," whatever that is. He didn't know what he was doing, but at the same time, they knew Billy D. Williams was too old to know what the word gender fluid means.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that if he knew about it, then he would know what to say in that interview, so they wouldn't, because he's old enough to know that a lot of things that you say in these interviews, you're going to get trapped in some people. And dude is what, 80? What is he, 84, y'all? I mean, is he 84?
Listen, all I know is that I went to see him in the last Star Wars movie, and the best part of the movie is when his 80-something-year-old behind asked this girl where she was from. She said, "Well, nowhere really." He said, "Well, I'm from the Gold District. Do you want to come and see it?"
You want my arm to fall off?
And if he's going to spend the last bit of his intergalactic years, you know, setting her up to inherit his fortune, good for him. David Pitt said, you know, Yusef is militant about living. He will tell you he is moving, why he is moving, and will state boldly he will never return. I don't know if I've ever boldly stated anything. I'll tell you that I don't know that I'll live in the United States ever again. Something that I realized, I didn't know this. I didn't realize until a few years ago that I spent more than half my adult life outside of America.
Dang. Could you break down the reason? Or a ballpark?
Well, let me hold on. Let me do one quick thing. Christopher James Young, not everyone has an adventurous outlook. It takes something to just pack up and move. You're right. The problem is when you are a Black American, Chris, you're not necessarily moving to something. You're running away because you realize that no matter where you go, it can't be worse than where you just came from. And Dave said about my position earlier on learning something with your phone, that's a mighty conservative capitalist position. I think as I rapidly approach maturity, as I'm 42 and a half years old, I am socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I understand all those things the old guys told me that I was fortunate enough to listen to. I was able to semi-retire when I was 37, and I didn't do it because I'm a nice person. I did it because I did some fairly ruthless yet legal financial wrangling that put me in a situation to be able to walk away from the game. Now, to address what you said, Art, because we might have to kind of go into this. Mm-hmm. Are you asking me why I left, or are you asking me why I didn't go back?
Let's go with the left first, because I think a lot of people are probably curious and eating popcorn and waiting to hear that answer.
When I was a kid, I had been able to, my dad had been forcefully conscripted, drafted into the United States military. By the time he came back and married my mom and had me, he didn't want to do any more traveling. They were together, and then they got divorced when I got a little older. It was not a big. It was weird because I didn't know that divorce for a lot of families was a big deal. Because my dad moved around the corner, and I distinctly remember when I was a kid, I did something stupid, and one day he sat me down. He said, "Do you understand that when you do foolish things, your mother calls me more than once a day, and I have to listen to that?" And I was like, "Huh?" Because I didn't know that when most people's parents got divorced, it was ugly. I didn't even know. I didn't know till I was an adult that my parents must have had arguments because I never saw them. My mother would take me on trips to Toronto, Canada. So I would go up to Caribbean, the Caribbean Festival. Here's the thing. Why I left was I realized while I was in college, one of the things that I would do was I would, let's say, go to school for 3 semesters instead of 2, and then I would find a government-sponsored program. And I want to do an entire show about that with my educator friends. There are so many government-sponsored programs out there that for free will let students from high school into college go all over the world for free. The problem is the only people who know about them are the financially well-off anyway. That's how you maintain wealth, by giving your children options at a cheaper rate than everybody else can. Once I realized that I could see the world, once I realized that the world was a bigger place, once you get that whiff of it, I knew I was just going to keep going places and going places. And it just becomes easier and easier to not come back. It becomes easier and easier to realize, wait a minute, I'm financially stable, secure, and physically safer. Let me say that again. Physically safer anywhere else in the world. People will say to me, but YusefWateef, you live in Brazil right now. Surely Brazil is dangerous. And I would say, well, yeah, Brazil is dangerous. Less dangerous than America. And they say, but YusefWateef, I saw on the news the police were running down hallways shooting black folks. I said, yes, they will. The difference is living abroad. For me to be involved in a deadly situation with another person or the cops, I would have to be someplace I have no business going. In America, all I have to do is be in a movie theater and a crazy white man between 40 years old can open fire and just murder everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
So when they say, isn't it more dangerous there? I'm like, well, yeah, if I'm going someplace dirty, I have no business going, doing something I shouldn't be doing with people I shouldn't be doing it with, I'm in a lot of danger. But if I just keep my square ass in downtown square ass neighborhood doing square ass stuff like going to libraries and cultural events for black people, I'll be just fine. But I'm a square. So it's not that bad for me. I don't like, let's go see the real Brazil. Well, you go see the real Brazil. Well, what about your people? My people I've got on people that you don't know, but that's a different story. And what was the other? Let me back up. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I got some portions of them, quite sure. I mean, the question is, did everybody understand in the chat?
And what was the other half of the question?
Well, you said, why are you not going back? I think that's another curious thing that people sitting there eating popcorn listening for an answer.
Oh, this is going to be, y'all going to be mad about this one. It's not nearly as exciting an answer. Everything that was a reason I left has just gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they wanted a more exciting answer. The reality is all that bad stuff got way worse. All of it. And when you realize, as an educated American, I just don't have to live in all that stress. Like, it's awkward when I talk to people who I love in the United States because I realize they have no real way to, how do I do this? They can't relate to a life where they don't live with the stress that they live under. But once you understand it, you know. Oh, John Nothing said something. Hold on.
That's a
John
good
said,
question.
John said taxable. First of all, if you are an American citizen, the unfortunate reality is that you can't get away from taxes. We are the only country where, if you pay taxes, if you're an American rather, you will pay taxes no matter what. I'm going to show you guys a few things, so we don't really have time to. Damn it! I sent her a link out of courtesy. I didn't think she would actually show up.
Oh yeah, no, and I knew it was a courtesy invite, and that's why I did show up. And what?
Is that my lioness there?
It is. Hey
What?
Art, how you doing?
Alrighty. What's that? That little thing that the caterpillar was using on Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, that that's how long though. It's just a regular vaporizer, not Alice in Wonderland approved. But yeah, it's for nicotine. It's not weed. I will not be getting higher and higher throughout the show. I promise.
Okay.
So,
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, for people who don't know, this is classic Ruby.
Leo's in the house.
that's right. You got a
Leo,
panel of Leos.
yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Ruby is my least favorite Canadian.
Yep.
Subscribe to her channel. Now that I've got that out of the way,
Uh huh.
what
He's
she
always
said.
so complimentary. That's why I come back. It's for all of the compliments.
Let me
You
get
know?
back to what John asked. John, we don't have time to go into tax stuff now, but this is what I do want you to do. I got a couple videos up. The last one was a monster with Ashley, the attorney, rescues us from the tax man. There's some interesting tax questions that were asked there that I want you to go check out.
Okay. That's good information.
Yeah. Yeah, classic Ruby. Yay.
Hey, Gab.
So John asked me, do you miss your family and friends? Sure, I do. I absolutely miss them. Do I miss anyone enough to want to permanently relocate back in the United States? No. Do I realize, and this is where, um, you know, I want the opinion, not because it will change my behavior, but I wonder how people who don't know me see it. Because one of the things I've been accused of by people who I respect in my communities, they said, Wateef, you're part of the problem. I said, what do you mean the problem? They said, in our community, the best and brightest just leave. And I said, well, what would you expect me to do? Stay here? Try my best to help out? Do what? Sacrifice the best 20, 30 years of my life? Beating my head against the wall after going out and working my ass off to get as much education as I could? Oh, well, hey, look at that. Just subscribe.
You know, if I could say something about that, because the thing is that it's, to me, that's a foreign thought process to think that you would go out and work your ass off and get yourself to somewhere good and then not want, I don't know, I guess to return that, because that's what, so when you think about Jamaicans, for example, and a lot of people from the islands, that's kind of exactly what happens. A lot of people, when they get here, it's not like they're coming into great situations as kids or whatever. And they really, I mean, they might be in really bad situations, but they are in a place where they can work themselves into great opportunity. And they understand that, that's not necessarily given their talents and their intelligence. And, you know, to some degree, there is luck involved too, as far as who you come across and how, and opportunities and whatever. And so what they do is they do return that, you know, not just to the family, but they do actually return that in general to normally like their little, at least their little kind of city, village, wherever they're from, where, you know, they actually do end up investing back into Jamaica and into Jamaicans. So I don't know. I guess to me, I've always found that such a foreign concept to think like I want to work, you know, really hard to get myself out of dire straits in a place where everyone's kind of basically stuck in this mindset because everything sucks. And now that I've gotten out, I saw the way. I actually get it. Screw everybody else. I'm not going back there to help. I'm not going back there to lead people out of the same place that I was once in.
And we have.
Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Art. You're a guest. You speak first.
I'm sorry. We have Char Willie up in the building. Just ask Char. You know, that's another good source right there. So just shout out to Char Willie. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm up here working on these nostrils.
Well, I'll say good evening. Just ask Char. Welcome.
What time is it over there?
In Brazil, it's 9 p.m. exactly.
Damn. Okay. And you guys have the same time difference? I mean, the same time zone in Rio, in Sao Paulo?
To the best of my knowledge, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, yeah. Now here's where, and Ruby, you come from a different country. I don't know what it may be like there. Here's where we are. The people, and when I say people, I'm going to speak on a very small group that I'm very well acquainted with. Okay? Black Americans like me who are the squares and the nerds. The ones who kept their nose in a book, wore a condom when they had sex, worked their ass off to get as much schooling as they could, and stayed away from credit cards and don't have any debt. The kids who got beat up because they could read. When especially after the year 2000, because that's when the internet changed everything. You know, that's when the internet changed everything. We got out so fast, it would make your head spin. Because we were never part of the community to begin with. Ooh, I know I said something wrong. By the way, folks, this is Just Ask Char. You know, she got an advice channel. So, you know, I did a Q&A advice with my buddy, and I hope he can stop by at some point, my buddy, Power and Strategy, Tony Maceo. So if you're someone who likes to give advice, I got some challenging friends who call me with some levels of stupidity and ignorance that I might need your help on.
Oh.
Are you a friend of Star?
Yeah, I know her quite well. She's very resourceful to most of us on YouTube.
Yes.
Anything we need from her, she definitely provides the best to her abilities. I mean, a lot of us appreciate her. Very consistent person.
Very deeply. Yeah. She's amazing.
Well, let's do this. Let me do this. Char, if you're okay with art, you're okay with me. Email me at that address, YusefWateef@gmail.com, and I'll send you a link, and you can come up. Oh, well, she just beat me to the punch. I can't type and talk at the same time.
She's a fast typer, man. I hear her when she does stream, like tick, 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 tick. I'm like, damn.
Let me do this real quick. Damn it, the one time I need you to run your mouth, Ruby, you're standing at your phone. How about you entertain these people while I'm trying to send Shar a message?
Well, because I was working on my sound, I thought we were kind of like on an intermission. Everyone take 5, So, uh,
Intermission.
And now a word from our sponsor.
yeah. Well, no, I guess because you were kind of mid answer, but I guess I'll add while you're doing what you're doing here. I'll add in the fact that remember, I was not born and raised in Jamaica. I wasn't born in Jamaica. I was born in Canada. And so in my generation of my family, we were all born in either America or Canada. Some people in Britain, but I don't know that family, so whatever. So I'm gonna say though that that standing ideal still exists, and what it comes down to for me, and the way I've always seen it personally, is I feel like I got breaks in life that other people didn't. Did I have to work, or did I have to overcome? And yeah, obviously, absolutely. But I think it's unfair for me to, for example, discount natural things and abilities and interests that I had, like reading. I actually liked learning. I liked reading. My IQ is relatively high. I think those are all
Stop,
things
stop,
that in
stop,
life.
stop, 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 stop. Did you just do that?
What? Did I do what?
This is why I don't trust you with the microphone. Did y'all hear it? Well, my IQ is relatively high. There's no faster way to tell someone you're insecure about your IQ and intelligence level than by saying, my IQ is relatively high.
Well, no, I'm actually saying it in the context though of this conversation. And the reason why I'm saying it is because those are all things that helped me get to where I am and propelled me down a particular path. Whereas for example, because people don't really understand what IQ even means, right? And so you have the part where you've learned concrete knowledge, and then you have the part with your ability. What is your natural ability to just see something and remember it, see something and incorporate it with your old knowledge? And some people are faster at that. That's all that means. And what I was saying that in the context of, well, if someone's really struggling with this book stuff, they don't really, they're not getting it, they fall through the cracks, right? Whereas for me, I didn't have to try, right? So I'm talking about the fact that to me, I think that that makes me lucky. That just makes me better than anyone else. Just in this context right here, that made me lucky. And so because it made me lucky, I don't look at it like, well, I'm better than someone who, took until the 3rd grade to be able to read, because I had a natural ability to do it and interest in doing it because I was good at it. It wasn't a struggle for me. And because I had a family that liked reading. So to me, yeah, sure, I worked hard, but when I look at it, really, there's a whole bunch of other things that either genetically I was born with or foundationally otherwise that gave me a leg up that other kids don't have. Or they might have additional pressures. They might have all those things, but they might have additional pressures that literally make it, there's such a block between them being where they're at and getting to where I am. And I feel like I do have a duty to go back, and especially, I'm not talking about necessarily helping the adults, but to help the kids, to try to provide information, resources, support systems that a lot of them aren't getting at home, that they're not getting from their schools. I do think that that's my responsibility, because I don't think that I'm better or I worked any harder than other people necessarily who came up with me but didn't make it, because I can look at their lives and I can look at everything that you put together and I could say, man, if I didn't get this break and this break, I might be right where they are. And that's how I see it.
Okay, that's a fair one to say that if I didn't get this break and that break. One of the things I always point to is that my parents were 50-50 parents. 50% of the time I was wait, Shara, you didn't get it? Did you check your junk mail?
I think she's saying she's just looking. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't speak emoji.
You have to learn.
He just now figuring out what SBM. Yeah, that, because I can't even say the acronym right. If you notice, I can't even say the acronym.
A lot of people say it wrong. They're like, I just think like SysBM, like the start
like
of system and then BM.
Yeah, that's almost like the LG. I can't even get that on going, you know. So it's like I just say alphabet people or something.
Oh,
So
I'm so good at that.
it's gonna be a P at the end later.
LGBTQIIQA. I believe that's the full acronym. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a P after that. So they
See,
you
but
go.
I'm good at those things. Just like I have my driver's license number memorized, I have all my bank card numbers and credit card numbers memorized, I have my health card number memorized, my like I'm just good at memorizing,
So you should be
bits of
good at
information.
Vegas.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Is that the advantage that I was given is my mother made sure I could read 3 grade levels ahead, and I didn't know that until I was a sophomore in high school when she talked to me about it, because I started to realize I was catching things faster than most. And my father was giving me books that were way over my reading level. I mean, I remember being a kid reading Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver.
I have that right now.
Plato,
Yeah.
reading Plato. Some people call it abusive parenting. I was reading The Exorcist and The Shining with him. Stuff like that.
Yeah, you were prepared.
Yeah, but I didn't know it at the time. Yeah, just ask Shar. Did you check your junk mail as well? Let me know if.
No, she received it. She said she received it, but she's watching to see if she has anything to say.
Okay. Okay, well, the door is open. Let me back up. John Nothing said something that I think Ruby may uniquely be qualified to. He said, as a woman, you'll find yourself in a lot more favorable positions, especially in the U.S. Does that mean if you travel, you're in more favorable?
It depends on where you go.
But I think as far as which I mean, I'll say worldwide though, globally. I mean, other than places where women have no rights, as a woman, as an attractive woman, if you have the right type of look and physical features that men there like, then yeah, it's again, it's another benefit. Not just being a woman, but being an attractive woman. So I mean, there's all these kinds of benefits you have to consider, and you can sit there and pretend they're not real because you don't think it's fair, but it's reality. The reality is, yeah, no, I agree with that. That's absolutely true.
I'm laughing at BMT because he's trying to figure it out. But yeah, when you go to these different countries, I mean, let's keep it real. A lot of other countries, the man don't give as many rights to women as they do out here in the U.S. So there's certain European countries. I think I've heard that some women have way more rights in other European countries. I forgot which ones. If anybody can refresh my memory on that, but for the most part, I think that where it comes down to where you're going to have to learn how to find some way to fit into that system as a woman. Like she said, when you have your looks and your health and all these different things, it will fit in because basically for some places, it's definitely bringing out your femininity but it depends, man. Because some places also, a lot of women are like they have to work a whole lot. They have to work their tails off in other countries. So it depends. Like I said, it's
Well, when we talk about brain drain, it could be what I would say maybe gender brain drain as well.
Yep. So they're trying to find solutions everywhere else. It's not just us. Other countries too. They're trying to find solutions to improve themselves. When I went to the favelas a few times, and they always want to feed you. But yeah, I went to the favelas, and we were talking about the struggle and their poverty or what have you, and a lot of people in the favelas are very religious, very 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 religious, right? And so it's weird, huh? And it's like the more like people in the affluent areas, they're into regular different types of spirituality, whatever, and probably mostly Catholic. But when you go to like the poor areas, they're like it's like how we are in our neighborhood, right? Where the church is like the number one thing. And so we were talking about their struggles as far as black people there. And mainly their whole thing is like we don't have time for education, we only have time for work. But a lot of them have to work 2 or 3 jobs, right? And I was giving them the concept
Brain drain and look at someone like Ayan Hirsi Ali, who was a victim of female genital mutilation and several other human rights atrocities, who had to flee to the West. That's a form of brain drain.
Wasn't she? But I think she was the chick that was really a champion of trying to end Islam. Wasn't that her?
I don't know if she was trying to end Islam. I think she wanted to cite Islam as a source of human rights violations and pointed out a lot of the negatives with Islam.
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, I remember. She probably still getting death threats, but
getting death threats. This is not to be funny. She'll be getting death threats until the day she dies. She exposed things that, just like anyone who's part of a group or an organization they were born into, she exposed things that they don't want exposed. And one of the things she talks about is consider that because I left the religion, they have marked me for death. And she uses that as an example of why, in her opinion, it's not fit for consideration among civil organizations. But
what she was doing also, she was going around campaigning pretty much the horrors of Islam and why it's not good for people in general. And she kind of painted Islam with a bad stroke, even though she was talking about her experiences.
Let me go back to this. If someone had victimized you by cutting off all your genitals as a child, you would campaign for their demise.
Right.
This woman was acting crazy.
Right. I'm trying to talk about that. All Islam don't do that. That's the whole thing. She was giving people the impression that if you're going to get into Islam, you're going to get your genitals cut off, and that was like a misleading narrative as far as that type of thing, because people already feel a certain way with this whole 9/11 and everything they about Islam. And so, I mean, the thing was, she just wasn't as definitive as she should have been, where she should have been able to talk about her experience in that particular sector versus the whole thing. So yeah, she probably would have got some support, way more support, if she was able to be more definitive on who was doing what. That's one of the reasons why, because I heard her a lot, and that was one of the main reasons why a lot of people felt a certain way about her, because I think didn't she come out after 9/11? You remember? It had to be.
That's a factor of age. Well, let me give you my comment on it, and I want to say this as an atheist, as someone who holds no religious affiliations, who disbelieves in all of them equally. The problem she points out is that there are certain things that are consistently written as doctrine. For example, even if you say, let's not say they all go through female genital manipulation, a substantial amount do. Let's not say they're all evil, but it's a matter of tenet and fact that if you choose as an adult to leave the religion, they get to murder you legally. That's not conjecture. So when she says she's got a beef with this religion, it's kind of like someone who says, I want to end the Catholic Church. Why? Does every Catholic clergyman rape and molest children? No. But a statistically significant number do.
But you already said that, people are looking for sound bites when you say things. And so that's the thing that I'm saying, is that we already know that people are looking for ammunition to end certain sectors of whatever they're not part of. And
no.
Her as a tool.
They're not trying to end certain sectors of what they're not part of. They're trying to end certain sectors of things that have hurt them or someone they love. The people that I know that will effectively want to murder every Catholic clergyman they find are the friends and family of people who were molested and raped by Catholic clergy.
I guess you didn't understand what I was saying, though. You didn't understand what I'm saying.
Please elaborate.
When I say a certain people are trying to end sector, like, for example, can you explain why they put the whole gender fluid thing when Billy D. Williams had that interview? Could you explain that?
I suspect it's good clickbait.
Huh?
I suspect it's good clickbait because no one in their right mind thought Billy D. Williams was saying, I'm gender fluid. He had to go on, and for people who weren't here earlier, we actually had to go look up that Billy D. Williams had to clarify he never said he was gender fluid. He's an 80-year-old man that had some fast-talking interviewer convincing him this and that. And, oh, yeah, I'm this and I'm that. And then it was Billy D. Williams is gender fluid. And he was like, slow down, no, I'm not.
Right. So, that's what I was saying, is that a lot of us do have, enough intelligence to know that that's not the whole thing. That's not the whole sector or what have you. But you know how the media spins things. Sometimes when her interviews are being played, half the time it's chopped up. So those things are always being used. Like I said, I'm gonna keep going with the 9/11, the 9/11 narrative. It's because usually they're trying to paint the picture, and I'm not saying people that don't believe in religion or people that are not in Islam. I'm talking about the people that's controlling the media. Those were some of the sentiments, because let's keep it real. A lot of us have these different issues, but if they can find an opportunity to exploit it to send some kind of message for them to benefit, you best believe they're going to use it. I don't think usually their heart is always in the right place.
Oh, their
You
heart
know
is
what?
never in the right. Go ahead, Ruby.
I just wanted to say, because here's the thing, though, and we have to remember this, that um, somewhere like America, for example, can help do a lot of good and make positive change around the world. But they have to care first. And they're not going to care about a tiny subset of a tiny subset of some religion in some tiny village. They don't care, right? And so that is part of the issue, is that that is the way that people in the Western world think of developing countries, basically, right? It's some little minute problem probably, but it's not our problem. It's not a big deal. It's probably rarely happens. They don't understand the extent to which anything happens, normally because they don't care unless it directly involves them. And so I think when you have an issue of little girls before they even hit puberty being held down and having their genitals literally cut off and then sewn together, and just, I mean, it's an atrocity. And that's what you were born and raised into, not as, well, we're extremists and, so we're going an extreme route, but this is what all Muslim people do. When you have the opportunity to speak on it, you will. And I think that to a large extent, there's probably not a lot of clarity on her side either, how many people do it or not, because who's talking about it? What women are talking about the time that they were mutilated? What women are, if they are here or not? I mean, who's talking about that? No one's having that conversation, so you just assume if she's Muslim too, then she's gone through it, right? So I do think that there are those assumptions there. You could read statistics all you want and you're going to say, yep, see, highly underreported, because no one wants to tell the truth, which might be true. There might be it might be a much higher degree than we really think that there are, because there might be some people who are doing it secretly or whatever. So I mean, I understand your generalized point, but I do kind of understand uh, her and what she said and how she said it, because to say, well, hey, listen, in my tiny sect that had, I mean, it's not really the Muslim religion, it's only like 2%, and who's going to care about that, right? Who's going to look at that and see, what, this might actually be a bigger problem and not something that's antiquated and no one's done in 100 years. Let's look into it, right? So you start big so people will care. I think that's really what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's the thing that I would say, and everybody is valid. Don't get me wrong, but usually when those things get blown out of proportion, the wrong people take the blows. People that have nothing to do with it usually takes the blame, or those kind of things. And then the other part is the people that's really doing the bad stuff. It gets kind of everything is so convoluted. Those people they continue doing what they're doing because they're looking more at the whole Islamic sector rather than her area. And then later on, it gives people a good reason to start wars and all kinds of stuff based on the whole religion, based on that actual area that's doing the crime. I think we got to be responsible when we're reporting information. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and I think that that's fair, but I do think at the same time that we have to be aware that up until some of these women started speaking out, there was not real knowledge and awareness that girls who are legal American or Canadian or whatever citizens are going home for the summer to visit family and coming back having had this done to them, or that there were places down the street from you that did this to little girls. So awareness is everything, and as much as you're right, obviously, the bad comes with the good, and oftentimes, innocent people are criminalized as well. But when I do think about how many women that are legal citizens of here that have been saved from these practices. How many parents who have, you know, dozens of children who can't do this to their little girls anymore. I mean, you know,
And what you just said made it here. Going back to brain drain. Right now, there is a little girl who maybe she lives in the United States where I'm from. Maybe she lives in Canada. Maybe she's just one of those really bright young girls in the same places where Ayan Hirsi Ali is from, who says, I have to run. Even though I'm smart, I can't. Maybe she's got an IQ of 150, and she's smart enough to know at 13, if I stay here any longer, they're going to cut me open. What does she do with her giant IQ? Does she stay there and solve the political problems of her community? Does she stay there and solve the problems of managerial and political issues? Of course not. She runs to the United States or to Canada, causing brain drain. So now the best and the brightest leave.
No, it's not really the same thing, and you know
Really?
it's not comparable. Pardon? It's not comparable.
It's not comparable that the best and the brightest who realize they have a horrible situation where they were. Maybe
Well,
you're
no, that's a little bit more of emergency right there, though, because that's kind of extreme to get your genitals cut off versus
right.
being
But for a little
ostracized.
girl to be mutilated, but even more than that, and being real is like they did a documentary. They've done a couple, but there was this documentary that recently came out on Netflix, so you could watch it. And most of these girls had no idea what was happening, or that it was gonna happen at all, or that anyone has it done to them. They found out while they were lying on a table with some woman holding a razor over them that this was about to happen to them. So because again, no one's talking about it, and that's where I said there can be probably a lot of misperception on her side about how often is this really practiced, because no one's talking about it before and after. You're not warning the little girls in advance. You're not preparing them for this rite of passage, because who's going to stick around for that period no matter how high your IQ is, right?
Yeah.
They say, oh, we're going to go visit your auntie so and so. You don't know auntie so and so is the one who does this stuff, let alone the fact that this stuff happens. You just show up and that's what they do. So I mean, it's not really comparable.
I think the documentary that you're talking about, it's I looked up real quick, called Eve's Apple on Netflix, about female genital mutilation. Yeah, yeah.
I watch so many things on Netflix. I don't even recognize her, but it could be.
I'm getting Netflix next week, so wish me luck, y'all.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have a lot to catch up on.
I'm a pirate. I just download what I want. In any case, you know, I don't want to make a unfair comparison, but I still would say, even if you're not that child, if you're a businessman or a businesswoman, or you happen to be someone who gets to travel the world, who then has a daughter, and you realize you're on a clock because you've seen more of the world, you realize how horrible what the rest of the family has in store. I watched a short story once on a husband and a wife who moved to, I can't remember if it was the United States or Canada. They were from a Muslim country. They were practicing faithful Muslims. And the people in their country were like, hey, are you going to cut your daughter? Isn't she about that age? And they were like, not going to happen. And time goes by. What did they do? They bring Granny over because Granny should live in a better place like they do. Granny kidnapped the daughter, smuggled her overseas, and had it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of hard to separate it, like, you know, because when you meet other Muslims, matter of fact, they're like totally against it. You know what I mean? That's why, but at the same time, we keep using the word Islamic or Muslim, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's, you know, because at the same time, if you say, it's almost like Hitler when he says, if I'm going to say something to get people to believe something, it has to be big.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is that particular sect of it, and you know, it goes back to what Ruby's saying. If it's, you know, if you just say what, you know, something small, people may not even think it's important, you know, but if you say something like super, super huge, like just the word Muslim and Islam, you know, you're like, ooh, what are they doing? So you're already thinking about 9/11. You're already thinking about Saddam Hussein. You're already thinking about all these different people. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to throw mutilation in the mix. And so, you know, it kind of like sensationalizes it a little bit instead of really focusing on the problem that's going on with that, those little girls or just the women in general.
Can I do something real quick? Not that I don't want to come back to brain drain and the general issue. John Nothing asked a relevant question because we were talking about religion. He said, religion helps you realize what's within yourself. And he said, is money your religion? Which is a fair question. So what I would say is yes, it is. Money helped make sure I didn't fall into poverty like so many people I know. Money made sure that I was able to ensure my own survival. Money gave me the freedom of time to lift weights. Money is the reason I can choose quality women to be in my life, not because I have to give them money, but because if I'm not working 50 hours a week, because again, I save money and consistently invest money, I can work less time and spend more time vetting quality women. Yes, if I had to name a religion, it would certainly be money. More than welcome to talk about that with you guys another time.
Brother Yusef, can you give people the definition of religion so people can understand why you're saying that, put it more into context? Because I think people just thinking about church. I think, can you break that down because I don't have my dictionary in front of me. But
I don't want to play the Google dictionary game. I'll tell you my definition of religion. Belief or faith in something without evidence.
I thought that's faith. Okay.
That's faith, yeah.
Okay. Religion, organized belief in something that bears no evidence.
Okay. Well, just, because I like to, when we have these conversations, I like the people to really, put all that into context because, there's a difference between religion and there's a difference between spirituality, right? So, and I think when we have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're the guest. You should speak.
I said, so when they have these questions out there, I think they have to really start understanding it in its full context, even based on the actual universal definition. When you just giving them an example about how you deal with money and stuff like that. Because if I was really, really ignorant, I would think that you go to a money church or something. With tambourines full of dollar bills.
I would like to believe that anybody who's been with me up until now, with the diversity of conversation that we have, would not. If there's someone who would fall to that level of thinking, I don't think that the other conversations that we have regarding world travel or social issues would benefit them because there's a fundamental level of understanding that they probably don't have.
Okay. Yeah, they're okay. Just a little suggestion.
No, I hear where you're coming from with that because the thing is, right, you said it earlier on, this idea of I want to get the hell out of here and then never go back is a pervasive idea regardless of what other factors you're including into that. Like, so people who, for example, never want to get married, don't want to have any kids, they just want it to be me, and mine, and, sex, drugs, and, rock and roll, and money. Well, those people are going to have the same mindset as those who want to give a better life to the wife and the children that they plan to have and whatever. So, overall, since the message is similar and they're looking to do basically what you did, maybe for different reasons, I think that clarification might be a good idea because they could really be, loyal followers, but think really differently still.
No, I encourage everyone who watches and listens to think totally different from me. I'm okay with that. You said something interesting, Ruby. There's no way you could have set this up better because when you talked about things like children and what gives you advantages, I did an article called Children, Narcotics, and Liquor. 3 things that I avoided that gave me financial freedom and success in life very young and early. And there's no way you could have known you were setting that up.
No, I did not.
But what you just said, I don't know if that's a fair comparison, though, because saying I want to be part of the brain drain and get out is not the same as I don't want to get married and I don't want to have children, because you have to have already had children to say I want to get out. You have to have already been married to say I don't want to do that again.
No, but saying you want to get out of America and everything else that entails living in America, especially as a Black person, is something that everyone can relate to, whether they have children or a wife or anything else. That's my point. My point is that in and of itself, brain drain, getting out, living a different life, outside of the Western world, even that isn't necessarily like there's so many other thought processes that you could hold and belief systems you could hold. Like, I'm never getting married, I'm never having children, right? So that's what I mean. It's just, you might have a very different mindset on other aspects of life versus other people that are listening, and they're listening because you got out and because of the money and the lifestyle and everything else that you've been able to accomplish. They want to do that same thing. They're just not going to add children and family or anything else into it because they're like, I don't want any part of that part,
Yeah, because the going narrative, I'm not sure if you're hearing it, the going narrative of you leaving and going out is just to grab some women. So they got,
there's a lot of that.
It'll be good for you to give other perspectives so people can stop thinking the same thing every time you talking about leaving and going somewhere else and exploring and learning, so that would be a good thing for you to think, consider.
Well, let me share this real quick then. Well, first, I don't want to ignore the people with me, and John Nothing always shows up, and I appreciate his input.
I like the answer too. It's the church is called the bank.
Oh no, he said the church is called the bank. My church is called Bitcoin, but we'll call it. He said, if misfortune happens while you're in Brazil and you die, would you want your body to be buried in the United States? Trick question. I don't want to be buried. I want a simple cremation. Unfortunately, if the worst happens and I pass before my mom, send her some of the ashes. Do what I did with my dad. I had my dad put into a little crystal ball. Something like that you can just put on the shelf. For the rest of it, give it to the four winds. I have no attachment to believing in any sort of I'll come back later or I'll be resurrected. I don't want that space in the cemetery. I'm okay with when I'm gone. Put it to the four winds. Okay, before I go forward, Art, what was that little grunt for?
No, someone called me, gave me some news. I hope it's good news by tomorrow.
Oh. So what you said about traveling the world and women, the awkward part is, and I'll give you a short and a long. The short, I did a video, like a 10-minute video called Easy Brazilian Women, and I want everybody to go watch that. Just enjoy it. It's called Easy Brazilian Women. The second thing is I try to pound this into people's heads over and over again. If you're a man who has his stuff together, if you are physically competent, no one says you have to be a bodybuilder, weightlifter, jiu-jitsu player. If you are financially stable, no one says you have to be rich, but you're one of those men who is able to save 10% of his income consistently. If you're a man who educates himself past school, no one says you have to have a PhD or even any degree, but if you're reading one nonfiction book a month, which I should do an entire show on because that's one of the things that keeps giving my competitive edge, you'll never have a problem with women. It's not like the game changes when you travel. If you travel the world, but you're used to dealing with women who are educated and traveling, you can do that in any language in any country. You shouldn't have to go to Brazil I'll never travel anywhere for women because I put myself into a situation where women find me attractive, and from those women, I choose young, cute girls to be with. That's not an accident, and it's not magic. I don't have any magic solutions. I was just willing to do the hard work, particularly when I was younger. So if you want to travel the world, travel the world. I climbed Mount Fuji in a storm. I did the running of the bulls in Spain. As an addendum to that, yeah, women want to be around me. But it's not like I have to travel for it. Now, if you're traveling because you want to buy a woman's attention, I have no problem with that. But call it what it is. Say to yourself, hey, I'm going to go to a brothel in another country. And I know guys who do that. Good for them. But don't think you're going to go to another country because it's just going to be easier. It doesn't. It just doesn't. That's just not.
That's the story that's being put out there. That's what I think. That's what get people fighting each other now. Because I don't know if you saw the documentary "Frustrated" by Al Greasy and Charles Tyler.
Hold on, let me look. Oh, you know what? Hold on, let me give you guys something. Charles Tyler. Well, okay, I've got a story about Charles Tyler. There are two articles that I want people to check out. One is Harems, Polygyny, and Men with Many Women. The other is Women Would Rather Have Part of an Amazing Man than All of an Average One. Let me say that again, because that's something that was branded into my heart as a young man. Women would rather have part of an amazing man than all of an average one. Never, ever try to be average. Try to be above average to give yourself choices. You said the documentary was called Frustrated?
Yeah, by Charles Tyler and Al Greasy. It was both. It was a collaboration with them, and then I think Charles Tyler passed away after that because he died when I was out there. That was in November. That was November, like a few years ago. But yeah,
so, here's where we are. If I'm not mistaken, and I want to be clear, is this what you're talking about? Is it that top video?
Let me see. No, I think they were just commenting on it. I'm not sure. But I think the actual movie itself, you might just want to put Al Greasy. And that was a long time ago when that came out. That was, I want to say like 2013 or 14.
That one, is that it?
I think it was that. I think it was that one.
Okay. All right, here we go. Anybody in the comment section, I'll address anybody who wants to talk about this. Dear sister Ruby, dear brother Art, feel free to jump in while I'm talking because I want to make sure that we really get to flush this out. First, I got to give you a little quick background, which goes into something I always talk about. Anyone who knows me and watches my channel, I'm not a YouTuber. I am someone who is a professional editor, writer, resume writer. I do things that are involved with university level English. It could be translating a document. It could be writing a contract for you. It could be writing a resume for you. And that business that I have a couple of people that come under me, and it's been able to facilitate my life around the world. Feel free to jump in with me on LinkedIn, but I tell people don't look at my resume first. That's not what I want you to look at. What I want you to look at first is down here, and it's called recommendations. These are the other business professionals that show you that I am respected by people who are respected. These are the people who can tell you who I am professionally. They can tell you the level of business that I'm able to execute. Look at that first. Find out what other respected business professionals say about me. Decide if I can help you, great. If not, pass it to someone else. Why is that relevant to the discussion about Charles Tyler and Al Grease? I am contacted fairly regularly by YouTubers and websites to write or sometimes ghostwrite about Brazil. Very few of them pay me past the first article. But YusefWateef, I thought you were good at your job. Why, yes, I am. Why don't they want me anymore? Well, they don't want me anymore because I never give them the narrative that they want. What they would like is for me to tell them that when you get off the airplane as an American guy with a blue passport, you're just going to have just women falling out of the sky and in the dirt part of the ghetto where women are struggling to eat that day, sure. But don't tell these people that they're going to come here for a Brazilian adventure and the losers at home, because they weigh 400 pounds, have no job skills, and finally somebody on a salary of minimum wage can come to another country where that salary is actually higher than the average norm. They want me to write these articles telling them how easy it is. But now here's where it gets even worse. They have these events. A lot of organizations do this. You know some of them, Art. They have these events, and these events will say, hey, come down to Brazil. We're going to go to the beach, and we're going to introduce you to some girls. And it just so happens when you get down there, they're all young and beautiful. To be fair, Brazil has young, beautiful women like every country.
A lot of them are prostitutes.
All of them are hookers, but they don't tell you that. So you think you just got lucky because you're a loser at home, but then you came here and you paid this guy a shit ton of money to introduce you to a barbecue where all these girls just happen to find you super attractive. My thing is, if you're going out hoeing, do some honest to goodness flat foot tricking, go find a prostitute and enjoy the evening for 10% of the price these guys are telling you. But no, they get mad at me because I won't write those articles. I won't use my talent to do, and I'm gonna go even deeper on this one, stay with me. It's largely because they want exploitation of people, largely people who look like our mothers and aunts. They're largely exploiting Black women because do you think these girls are getting paid well, at least for what they do? No. They're just abusing these women, underpaying them, convincing these guys who are losers, hey, you know what? Who needs to do what YusefWateef says? He's boring. He wants you to read books and lift weights and get out there and talk to some girls until you get it right. You don't need to do that. There's a magic place. Sometimes the magic place is Thailand, where I lived for 2 years. Sometimes the magic place is Brazil. Sometimes the magic place is the Ukraine. But wherever you are is the worst place for women. And if you just come over here, it'll be better. Hold on, wait. Char, did you know I was about to pull out that? Did you know I was about to pull out my soapbox? Will you please click that link and come up here to the big house with us?
Oh my God! Oh, you forgot about the G strings and the feathers too. That people are promised to.
I don't understand that, Char. I don't understand that part. The in quotation girls. I don't know what you mean by that.
But if I could add something, because can y'all hear me? I don't know if my mic is too far away from me, if I should turn it up.
Yeah, that's a good mic.
Okay. Thank you. I got a Yeti and I feel special. Anyway, so the thing is, and I have this discussion with people a lot online, because even the way that they set up conversations, it sounds to me like they are perfectly okay going to some other country, finding a woman who wants to use them for their resources, and marrying that woman and having children with that woman and whatever. And I say, okay, well, then what's wrong with just doing the same thing here? You can go somewhere where women are in poverty, or damn near, and find one who's willing to use you for your resources and marry them and give them children. Oh no, but it's wrong when it's an American woman. And see, it's the lack of logic. They don't have any logic. What they're not realizing is that the ones who are willing to play ball, so they're going to sit there and they'll be incredibly submissive, have no opinion. They are going to be your dream come true. This is the long game. Right? There's a short game of prostitution, whereas in, hey, listen, you pay me for a night, I give you what you want for a night. I pretend to be whoever the hell you want me to be for that night. I'm the perfect woman. But, if you have common sense, you know that the woman she created for you doesn't exist in real life. That's certainly not her. Okay. That's what these women are doing. It's the exact same game. They figure out what woman you want, and they're going to be that, because they're looking for you to marry them. They're looking for resources. They're looking for you to parent their children, and therefore they can get even more resources. They're looking for a green card.
And let me be clear about this next statement. I think that in Western... hold on. A new player has entered the field.
We got Shar Willie up in
Hey! Shar came.
On your camera, say hello, show us your curlies.
Greetings, everyone.
Hey, Shar. Good evening.
Let me address what Ruby said, and then Shar, I'm going to hand you the microphone because I want you to catch up with us on all your thoughts that have been happening in the sideline. What you just said, Ruby, one of the things that has been a misfortune in a lot of Western countries is young women not valuing, and by value, I mean value as in I should get something for this, their youth and beauty. I'm not saying just flat-foot prostitution and tricking is the way to go, but the other side of the coin is the other extreme behavior of, well, why aren't we teaching our daughters that, yes, if you're young and beautiful, a man should remunerate you for your time. He should have to do something for you to spend time with you. He should be looking at you saying, I want to do those two old-fashioned things that men do for women, protect and provide, but they're not. So I'm not telling you that prostitution is right or wrong or that marriage is right or wrong, but what I am telling people is that why aren't they saying, listen, the only competition against these girls that are going to go out there, and to be clear, the men who are leaving, no matter how much I dislike their dishonesty, these aren't the losers on the corner. These are the men with some money in their pocket. They've saved a little bit. They probably have a little bit more going for them, because the narrative we want to believe is that only the poor guys travel. The reality is the guys that can afford to go from country to country for months on end, they're the ones that could probably donate some money back into the Black community or at least produce strong Black children, but they're not.
Mm-hmm. One thing to think about before Shar gets on is that, there's another side to this, to where there are some men that just want to get, find some happiness somewhere. You know what I mean? The part that I just don't like is where they leave and then they tell people like, look what I got, and y'all stuck with the worst of the worst and all this kind of stuff. That's the part where I'm like, come on, man, won't you just, enjoy yourself and, and keep it to yourself? Or you can just even share some good experiences, because some people come back with the whole, how it is when you travel, you coming back with the whole, big Russian hat and the scarf, and you're like, I just came back. You wouldn't believe where I've been. You just start talking about all the good experiences. Hey, we like them stories, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
I just, that's the part that I really don't I don't support the whole. Okay, I got something better than what you guys stuck with.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just awkward, especially when you're one of those men who, and we talked about people who I don't get involved in petty disputes, so I'm not going to name the person that we were talking about earlier, Art. But it's like there are guys who they say, "Oh, are you on Black YouTube? You should listen to this guy," and it's just angry, angry, angry. Women are bitches. I'm like, no, you haven't learned how to make a woman want to be loyal and obedient to you. You'd rather just complain to a bunch of other sad men about
Facts. Fact.
it. Work. And Shar, you
Fact.
have the microphone.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Hey, Shar. Okay. I'm
Hello.
just being a nerd now, but I'm excited you came up.
Really.
Yay. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm showing off the beautiful art that Art had made for me. So that's why I have that picture instead of my regular picture.
I'm working on yours, Ruby. Don't get mad at me. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my god, wait a minute. Art, you drew that? That
That
is
was a while
so
back.
good. Oh my god, I
You gave
missed
me
that
something a
one.
little hard. You gave me something took a long time to do. That's why it was hard for me.
Hey, you had a selection, okay? But
Oh,
no,
you want
that is
something like that?
awesome.
Something simple like that?
Well, no, I like mine. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, I'll stick to your ideal. I'll go with the couch and everything. Put all
Why
that.
do we keep cutting Shar off?
I know
I'm
we're the
sorry, Star.
worst. I'm sorry, Shar. You
We're
got us all
Leos,
hyped up
man. We're
now.
Leos. Okay. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Star.
I'm done. I'm muting. I'm done.
It's okay. I'm a woman of little words, so it doesn't matter. When I did the quotation marks, I knew you were going to say that people weren't too pleased with your writing because you would not go with the narrative of you get off of a plane, meet a beautiful woman, and live happily ever after. So that's why I said quotation mark there, meet the girls. So that's what that was about.
Wait, okay, hold on. You said the quotation mark about meeting a girl.
When you mentioned that
Yeah.
they want you to write the
Yeah.
narrative about technically they get off of a plane,
Right.
they meet a beautiful woman, and live happily ever after. And I just said in quotation marks when you said they're going to meet girls. When you mentioned that they were going to meet girls, which is actually they'll go somewhere and meet a group of girls, which is actually prostitutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Working girls would probably be a better thing. And again, for anybody listening, don't look at me like I'm some sort of a social conservative, because I'm a social liberal. If they want to go out to get some prostitutes, go for it, because at least you know what you're doing then. But I have seen so many men feel like I look at them and I'm like, why do you believe that? I mean, if you're paying her rent, of course, but again, if you marry a woman, you're probably going to be paying the rent anyway. It's just one of those awkward situations where everybody wants the same thing, but nobody knows how to give it to the other person. Because most of these guys are not bad and they are not evil. They're just misguided, because they want a woman who is loyal and obedient in a traditional sense, and women want a man who can protect and provide, but nobody has learned how to give that to the other person. So part of that brain drain. Men find it easier to say, you know what, I do want to marry a black woman, but I'll just go to Brazil or Jamaica or Kenya to find one. And that's a part of brain drain that we don't talk about, because these guys are looking for black women. They're just looking for black women from a different place because they feel like they don't have the tools to make a woman happy from where they're from. And honestly, a lot of them didn't get it, And I always use as an example, I use my grandfather and my grandmother. Just to give you guys a very, very relevant example. Hold on, let me pull this picture up for you. I have, let's see, and I want your thoughts on what I'm about to say next, because come on, where is it? My grandfather never. These are my family pictures that are on my website. My grandfather, by the way, that's my grandfather on my grandmother's side.
You're like banker.
Yeah. Well, the unfortunate reality is that my grandmother And I'm trying to find a picture of her here. My grandmother was a stunningly beautiful woman, right? I'm trying to get a good picture of her, but oh, come on, where is it? Open image in new tab. There we go. But my grandfather, as you see, and I say this with love and respect, see, where's my grandma? See this woman right here? That's my grandmother. High cheekbones. Her and her sisters were all stuck up. They went to Georgia State University, Spelman University. They know what it was like to watch their friends hung from trees when they found out that they could read as Black people. You see this grunt right here? That's my granddad. Not a handsome man. How did he land her? Well, in his day, it was easy. I don't have to go to Brazil. I just have to look at her and say, I'm going to buy you a half an acre of land and a 3-story house to put on it and support you and 3 sons. Case closed. Mm-hmm. Now, these guys, they have to go to places where that's because we're not, and I'm going to say something very sexist here. I don't necessarily know that we as men are good for much more to a woman than protection and provision. We provide a lot of other stuff, but those 2 things, like, we're really good at doing those things for women we care about. The rest, maybe not. But my grandmother wore her wedding ring until she died at the age of 101. And my grandfather had been dead 40 years by that point. So I can't blame these guys for looking for any way out. I just hate the dishonesty they're being met with, because these guys are desperate to find something, and people are feeding them a poop sandwich.
Yeah, there is a validity. Oh, go ahead, Char.
I was going to say, there's a lot of dishonesty because the narrative that I hear, because I mod for a lot of channels, and I just sit back and just listen. And they're saying that they've already found it. They're about to go get it next week. And they've been talking like this for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And there's some validity at what some of the brothers are saying when they do want to go out or have been out, stuff like that. Some people do want that traditional type thing or want to have some a different type of flavor or culture and stuff like that, because of some of the stuff that's going on here in the United States, depending on where you're at, it's like it's kind of unescapable. So, sometimes people like it, I guess it goes to the brain drain thing a little bit, to where, they're trying to find something with a different thing to where some of these traditions kind of fit what they need and as far as a lifestyle. But there are some that feel that they look at stuff on television or they look at something on social media and say, that's what I want, where it's a whole different ball game when you go travel and find out the real deal. So that's the thing that what's crazy. You hear a lot of people talking about, I want to do this and I want to go out there, but not too many people come back and have a story about, the whole, I did what I wanted to do and now I'm living this way with these people. Mm-hmm. They're still bachelors. They have, a lot of them haven't settled down. So that's the thing I'm talking about. It's like, if you really about this life, you really want that submission, you really want all that kind of stuff. And there are, and how it is, a lot of those Brazilian women out there too, especially, and I run into, my wife is religious, so their whole thing is definitely making sure the family is taken care of, because they have that whole family concept out there. So if you really about that life, then that's when you need to step up to the plate. If you got something like that out here, then you better grab it before it slips out of your hands.
Let me ask a quick question, but I specifically want Shar to answer first and then Ruby. Look at what Lance said. At what point is a man responsible for a woman?
I would say when he chooses her.
You mean as a wife?
Yes.
Okay. Ruby?
Okay. So the way I'll say it is this. To me, you could date around, and I'm not talking about whole culture where we're all having sex here, but I'm just saying dating. So you date around to try to find the right person for you. When you choose someone, right? I'm going to commit to you. And we're going to build a life that hopefully leads to marriage and children and whatever. At that point, you expect and would prefer, and it's most functional when you receive submission from her. In order to receive submission, it's a reciprocal cycle that includes leadership, protection, and providing. So he's providing the leadership, protection, and provision. She's providing the submission and nurturing and support. So it would be that moment, the moment that you would need submission from her, because now you're starting a life together, is the moment that you would also be responsible for a woman to
Okay.
that extent.
So here's the question: do you think that the brain drain of men, particularly the educated or the ones with careers or at least a good job, the brain drain of them going to Eastern Europe or Africa or Brazil is justified looking for those women? Do you think that they have a problem there?
So can we define the brain drain thing? Because I was here, I missed it at the beginning. I'm guessing you
Oh,
defined it. I
okay.
want to get a definition.
Art, do you want to give her that?
Okay, I'll give it a shot, but from my understanding, it's based on a person that is in a particular type of community, and this person is constantly growing and learning and getting their talents cultivated, their intelligence, education, and so on. But for some reason, the community they belong to is not really either supporting or helping grow or even going against them. So it kind of squeezes them out, so they, for the most part, where they may have to go elsewhere to continue what they were doing, that they were held back from in their community.
The example we gave earlier was, for example, in the Black community, the guys like my friends and I suspect some of the people watching this that grew up wearing, Transformer T-shirts and getting beaten up for it before the internet made so many of us realize we weren't alone. When we hit the real world at 18, 19 years old, I always get my ass kicked for this community. I'm going to repeat something that Tony Maceo said because I never want to pass someone else's words off as my own. He said, no one abandons, these men never abandoned the Black community at 30. They were gone at high school. They knew they weren't going to be part of that community because it was a community that the same things that I was ostracized for as a child, my ability to read well, write well, which are how I feed myself and I built a company off of it, are the same things you get bullied for as a child. And when you grow up, I'm not resentful towards anyone, including Black Americans. It's just awkward when I realized first how many men that I know that are, and they left and they were like, fuck you people. So then when you see guys, and I always use my favorite example of weird Black guy like me, who I have more in common with, but he wasn't in my era. And stop me if you know who's coming. Let's see. Donald Glover.
Mm.
Here is a man whose brain works the way that a lot of us weird Black kids, his brain works the same way. I get him. You can't tell me that people were checking for him in high school to be his buddy. I know they weren't. He talks about it too. But now we live in a world, thank goodness, through the power of the internet, I can talk to other weirdos like me. But I'm never going to be part of what they call, the Black YouTube community, because people always ask me about, did you hear about this guy in Black YouTube? And I'm like, no, he doesn't even appear on my feed because I'm not in that world.
Yeah, they're saying the same stuff that you're saying. It's a lot of the talking points that you are covering.
Right. So with that, to that extent though, it's not that the Black YouTube community ostracized you or isn't accepting you. It's that you don't want any part of it. You don't know anything about it. So when you're not taking, like, I'm not going to say that, I've never had any social issues or, felt rejection or ostracism or whatever. But with that being said, I didn't decide therefore, well, I'm gonna, I'm gonna ostracize myself before they can ostracize me. Well, if they don't want me too bad, I don't need them then, and just say screw the whole community. I know that communities are built up of, micro sets and then even smaller and smaller groups of people, and that I knew that there was my group of people within this community that, yeah, they think like me and they feel like me and they function like me and whatever. But even the ones who aren't exactly like me, that, I was gonna find some that had some points in common, some that I could work with, some that complement me well. And that overall there were going to
But
be
yeah,
ones.
how old are you?
Me, I'm 35.
Okay, I'm Generation X. I'm 42 and a half. So you're under me by 7 years, which means
I'm 35 and a half. No.
well, by the time you were, let's say, in high school, the internet was a thing, right?
Barely, no. Not like this.
Not like this, but you knew that there were other people who thought like you. You got to remember, the internet
No,
wasn't.
I didn't. No. That's what I mean. Not like this. Like there was like ICQ. Like I mean there was AOL, sure that was more of an American thing, but like even with that, there's like ICQ or like, you know, random chat-based rooms, but to know
random things, you knew that there was somebody out there with the
no,
same.
I didn't. That's what I'm saying. You see, the thing is, because you have to understand what's accessible to you as a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl with AOL or ICQ. Mostly who you're talking to are the people that you already know, right?
Wow.
To know and understand that there was a bunch of random people from all over the world that you could not only speak to, but not in a trolling sense, not in a sexual dating sense, but in a hey, let's all have common interests and talk together. No.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't really like that until what would be the start of college, because you know Facebook came out shortly around then and stuff like that, and that's when you started being like, oh hey, so the time that you start learning that anyway, i.e. college time, was around the internet did what it did. And that's why I talk about, because we're not really this group, the group that I was born in, we're kind of Zennials. And the reason why we're Zennials is because we were born Generation X, but somewhere before we were out there in the world as adults, the internet happened.
Well, I really think you guys got screwed too.
Yeah, no, we did, because all of a sudden everything changed.
Yeah, because 35, like Generation X, we got all the advantages because we did our hardcore education without the internet, but then just we became adults. The fact that like the younger people that hire me, who are my clients, who are CEOs and CFOs of companies, can't read as well as I can, and they can't write as well as I can because they've never had to read an entire book for a project. They've never had to write out a 500-word paper or type it out ever in their college career. It's crazy.
So you're saying that the technology ruined the generation?
Oh yeah, these people can't read or write. I have graduates that are my cousins, and I ask them, what was the last book you had to read for a class? They might read a few sections, but they don't know what it's like to have a professor say, here's a 2,000-page book. You've got 3 months. We'll talk about it once a week. Go. They don't know what that's like. They don't know what it's like to sit down in front of a computer and have a 2,000-word essay they've got to write.
And I've met adult people leaving high school who have never actually held a book and read it, ever. Ever. Yeah. They've never held a paper book ever. Even as kids, everything was internet. Everything was online. Everything was a Kindle or something. They've never held a book.
I've got cousins and younger cousins and children of cousins who've never purchased a piece of music, who don't know that piracy is. I know piracy is wrong, even though I do it. They don't know piracy is wrong because never in their life have they had to actually pay for a piece of music. You just go download it. Let me look at something John Nothing said that I disagree with respectfully. John Nothing said when he was talking in reference to my grandmother and my grandfather, he said, they don't make them like that no more. And I said, I disagree. I'm going to make a bold statement. And I actually want Art first on this one, and then I'd like to go down to Shar and Ruby. But as a man, I want him to give his point on these two. He said, they don't make them like this anymore. And I said, yes, they do. Any woman will for the right man. And the reference I gave him was my women would rather have part of an amazing man than all of an average one. But let me be clear on what I said. He said, they're not looking for Mr. Right. They're looking for Mr. Right now. Great men aren't found. They're realized. I agree. Great men aren't found. They're realized. And I do agree. Women are looking for Mr. Right now. The problem is, if you are Mr. Right, if you are that man that can trigger that feminine loyalty and obedience in her, if you've done the work, which most men haven't, I'm not being specific to you, John. I don't know you personally. We've never shaken hands or broken bread. But it scares me that a lot of young men contact me for mentorship. It scares me that so many of them are 25 and don't know you can't just be yourself. They've been taught, I can just be myself and I'll get a great woman. And then when that doesn't happen, they say, I'm going to go to fill in the blank other country as part of the brain drain and get one there. Art?
I have to agree with the dude in the chat. A lot of the sorry about that, brother. But it's a lot of interference going on with the growth of someone like your grandmother. You know, we don't have that, you know, so if there was someone like that, it would be a rarity, you know, because it's different things like we said, media, different things that's going on in schools. I mean, the whole culture shifts, all those kind of things are interfering with the wholesomeness of your grandmother. And the crazy part is a lot of people don't even know it because they don't even know about your grandmother. So they think whatever's in their face is normal. Wait a minute, I have the same poster. I'm looking at me in your background. I have the same poster, man.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Wait,
No, well, mine is different. I'm sorry.
You got that one?
It's similar. Where is it?
Ah,
Well, similar. My
nice.
bad.
Nerdgasm.
Wow. But yeah, that's my thing is I think that's the part to where people these things my whole thing is it's not for me to disagree, it's to find out how can we get that back? You know, how can we improve it?
Time. You can't go back in time.
Or no. You don't understand. How can we be able to improve the situation so he won't be saying that there's nobody like that anymore?
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Because he may be telling you something that you're not seeing out here. You know what I mean? So my whole thing is, yeah, I mean, I will complain for about what 10 minutes, but the rest of the time I'll try to find a solution to the problem.
And I want to kind of, and especially before Shar and Ruby, and by the way, I'm going to put what Shar said. Before Shar and Ruby even get into this, I want to self-disclose about my beliefs on you got to do the work, you got to do that. I always tell people, I didn't pop out of my mother this guy. I have a hard time when people say, oh, Watt, you're cool. I was a fat kid who got beat up a lot that wet the bed till he was like 13.
Dang, 13?
Like, I want to put out there, this is what happens when that kid decides, I'm going to get into the gym. I'm going to start learning jujitsu, judo. I'm going to start lifting some heavy ass weights. I'm going to start reading books. And I had uncle, I was his secret apprentice, and he put me out there to just start talking to girls. Go say this, go say that. So I got all my nose out of the way. So by the time I was an adult, I could talk to a woman with a confidence that young men I know don't have now. Now they're 40 talking to me about what do I say to a woman on first date? I'm like, wait, you didn't go through this? No, because I got put through the meat grinder. Shar?
Yes.
Your thoughts on?
I don't know. He said so many things.
We got time.
Sure.
Yeah, you're so cool. I tell you that. And I do appreciate you. I mean, you're putting it out there, the truth. So I just wanted to say that I do appreciate you. Now, as far as making them like they used to, well, yeah, it's a different time. That is true. But there are a few. There's someone out there. And even if it's not like they used to, maybe half of it or 75%, it's something. They have some quality that they used to have.
You got him on the panel.
Yeah, so as far as finding someone, that's not going to even stop you. You do have to, as Yusef said, put in the work. You change you. And as you do that, you'll you'll get the person that you want. Of course, they're not going to be perfect or anything, and it may not even be in your area. That is possible, but you won't die alone. So it's not hopeless.
Well, yeah, but what you just said, you won't die alone. It's not hopeless. That's nobody wants to end up with somebody because they're who was left when the party ended.
Well, I don't mean in that aspect. I'm meaning that you'll find someone. Now, as far as perfection, just like your great grandmother, like your grandma, no, you're not going to find that.
Oh,
But even if you get 50% of that, you will find someone that you can work with and have a family with. I'm just saying you just won't be alone and die. It's just not hopeless. You will find someone.
And I want to be clear, my grandmother wasn't perfect. She was no angel. She was just a right stuck up broad a lot of the time, and she knew it because she was pretty high cheekbone girl with a great education who had this husband who held her on a high pedestal who said, listen, you bear these children with me and be my wife forever, and I'm going to do these things for you. But they had a social contract together. And there's nothing wrong with that because both of them knew the deal going in. Mm-hmm. Men can find women to marry, but not the woman they want to marry. I say most men, yes. I'm fortunate. You know, for me, I had one wife in the United States, had a great marriage, great divorce because I married a woman who was educated. She had an Ivy League education, smart, all kinds of other stuff. I wanted to travel the world, and she didn't. Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to walk away on that one. That's cool.
Yeah, but you know what? If she called me today and said, hey, can you help me? Sure, no problem. The other thing, though, got married again in Brazil. Smart, bilingual woman with a university degree. I put myself in a position to be able to choose women with choices, and I think that's the problem.
Are you a Scorpio?
No, I'm a Leo.
You a Leo too?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it really was a full panel. Hey. I was just being art. Sean, what's your sign?
I don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep quiet on that one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but Art knows. All right, then I see how y'all do me.
Quiet.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Unless you want. But at least I know how to talk to them. I'll just say that. I never took him out. Yeah, I guess I can see the Leo in his brother, but you sound like a Scorpio, though, in my opinion. But okay, you might have it in your chart.
But that's the thing, you know. You see, you know, it depends on the capacity of women you want. Again, as in Brazil, as in Canada, as in the United States, as in Africa, as in Jamaica, if you want a better woman that has more to offer you than sex and sandwiches, and to be clear, that's fine if that's what you want. You have to offer her more than just some sex. I mean, she's got other choices. If you're choosing a young, beautiful woman who has an education and she's bilingual and all this other good stuff, yeah, you actually have to be more than just I can bang you good. You got to be, get this, a lot of guys don't know that when you leave Western countries and you do find these girls that are cute and young, you got to be presentable to her family.
You know, to be fair, a lot of these guys are literally saying that the only thing they want from a woman is beauty. You know, beauty is everything. Think we all know where that one comes from. But that's the thing. They want a woman who is young and beautiful and literally will just shut up and have sex and make sandwiches and just basically be, I mean, I don't think they really think it through as far as what that would really be like in a life partner forever, but
they don't think about the cost. If you want that, then go get it. The problem is, if that's her job, you can't turn around later and ask her opinion on what mortgage rate you should get, because that's not her job.
The word
you
is
can't
thrown,
go ahead.
The word is thrown around a lot is submission.
Right.
You throw that around. So, and it becomes a tough discussion between both sexes. I think that's the part where, and I think, you know, you in Brazil, they have some issues there with that, but it's not that much. But over here, I think that's the hurdle we need to get over in this country.
Hey, Mary, I'm going to actually do a show about physical fitness. I want to talk to some of my other buddies that are gym nuts as well, and I hope you subscribe so you can watch as well. Now, watch this. John Nothing said something, but he said more than he thought. He says, okay, sex, sandwiches, and silence. And I don't know if he's just pointing these out. He may be saying that's what he wants. That might be saying what he's seen some other guys want. But here's how the game works. If a guy says, listen, I want sex, sandwiches, and silence, that's cool. Sex. Are you going to be able to provide that luxurious king-size bed in a decent-sized house for her to be your sex kitten in?
Lots of fluids.
That's your job. That's your job. Okay? You want sandwiches, right? You can't expect her to make you these beautiful sandwiches that you want with imported meats if you're not out there earning the bread. You got to come home with grocery money. She's got to be able to look at you and say, hey, honey, I know you like that imported Brazilian mortadella, and I know you like that Bavarian Swiss, and I know you want it on nice Italian rye marble bread from the southern region of so-and-so. And she puts her hand out there and says, let me go pick that stuff up for you so I can make you a sandwich for lunch. Oh, no, you got to be ready to do that. When you say silence, and this is a big one, and stay with me on this. You want a woman that's going to be silent. Cool. You want her to shut up while you're watching the fight? Cool. What is she doing while she's silent? Because if she doesn't have something to do, she's going to be hanging around with the person that when I was a young man, and I'm not ashamed of this, me and the savage Mongols I hung them out with, we were the ones that were occupying her while you were just happy she was shutting up and gone. Because if you don't give her something constructive that she can go do in that big house that you don't have to provide for her, guess what? You know who she's going to find something to do with? The guys like when we were young bucks still on the prowl. You know, I'm at a point now where I keep my sword sharp, but I'm not out there chopping it down like I used to. I can't have it all. I'm trying to give it to these young men, but they want it for free.
Yeah, the
game is cold.
Yeah, that whole thing about them shutting up. I just think that they still don't know what kind of woman they're looking for. Some of these guys, and then when that happens, because the thing is, the reason why they would probably say the whole silence or shut up or whatever they're talking about is because they still trying to figure themselves out and knowing what to hear and what not to hear. And sometimes you should, you know, the good test is when you're able to have some kind of some feedback. What kind of, you know, some kind of what do you call it? Progressive, I guess, feedback. Then that's when you know. Because think about it. You know, what if you did have this submissive woman, but she said everything right? Does she have to be silent with that? You know, you have to know how to listen. You have to know on the things that are coming through, because whatever she is saying is going through your whole body. It's not going just to your ears. It's going through your body. It's going through your mind. So, you know, it's just almost like eating. You know, what kind of foods are you? I'm not quite sure you do lives on that, on the right food to put in your body. So sometimes you would have to pick the right person that says the right things to make you grow stronger as a man, because basically the things that she's saying is going inside rather than outside. And that's what I've been noticing. A lot of people are affected outwardly than internally when things are said. So hopefully we have that kind of, you know, school of learning to where we be able to listen to things from all sides.
Yeah.
I just think that these people have no concept of what actual relationship is, let alone an actual marriage. Right? Just like, I mean, because you listen to their overall commentary, but just everything. And you recognize that they have never really had a functional, long-term, especially live-in relationship with someone. So therefore, they don't understand the role that someone could play or should play. Right? Because even if we had said, well, you know, no, maybe they just all had failures, right? Well, if that was the case, then they would understand all the ways that it failed, not just one, right? So they would understand that someone who can't contribute positively in any sense of the word to the household, to the decisions in the household, to running the children, to making decisions in your absence, understanding the way you would want things even to be done.
What you just said, you just said something critical about the children. Why don't most men stop and think that the woman they get pregnant is going to be the first teacher of their child? Why don't, like, it amazed me, guys. Again, one of the things that helped me, wearing condoms all the time. Why are guys out there having children with women that they know are dumb? Like, do you not understand your child's going to learn his ABCs?
Zennials ain't having kids anymore. And the younger millennials, not too many of them have children at all.
No, but they don't think about that, right? And that's why they'll say, I don't need a woman who's intelligent. I don't need a woman who's this. I don't need a woman who's that. I just need this. Okay, but unless you want your gene line to die off with you, which I doubt, eventually at some point in the future, you're going to want children. So if you want children in the future, then would it not be wise to have a woman who is the whole package, including this is the woman who's going to be, like you said, she's going to be the first teacher of your children, right? If she's entirely illiterate, she can't read your children's stories all day and have them up in their books. teaching them their ABCs because, hey, she's illiterate. When they're coming home struggling with homework and whatever, well, you're going to be outputting for a tutor. You're going to be outputting for everything because you wanted a woman who will sit down, shut up, have sex with you, make sandwiches, and that's it. And as long as she fulfilled that, well, then you're good.
And this is one of the reasons that I don't totally hate Ruby, because sometimes she says something really smart. You said,
that's your Leo sister, man.
In your absence, I was in a situation once where I used to have a house in Vegas. It was 4 bedrooms, hot tub, swimming pool, downstairs living room, upstairs. We used to have these big, kinky, crazy parties. And I remember there was a situation that popped up where my house was full of people, and I called a bunch of them over. I said, listen, something has come up. It was probably a client who needed me to save him. Something he probably did stupid with his money and called me, oh my goodness, I got to get my money back out of this account. And I'm like, why'd you give it to these people? In any case, this is back when I was a financial professional. I said, listen, she speaks with my voice while I'm gone. Do you know how many guys looked at me like, what did you just say? I said, and I said, and y'all know me.
It's not fair though, man. We Leos, man. We bring that energy out of you.
Because I didn't trust her to be a girl. I trusted her not to do what she thought was the right thing to do. When I said she speaks with my voice, she would make a decision based on what I wanted, not what she wanted or what the other people in that room wanted. And they knew that when I came back, if anybody had in any way not done or done something in my house that she said this is not okay, they knew they were going to have a whole handful of problems they didn't count on.
He didn't. I'm not sure if he understood what I said, Ruby.
Go ahead.
But
no, because you're saying that it's not fair, but that's not true because I'm a Leo woman and I don't date Leo men, so it's not true.
No, I'm just saying no, not you. I was talking about him, but I was thinking we had this discussion before, because the thing that most of us do as Leo men, we do encourage the fire in women. We do encourage that whole proactiveness. So we can handle that. Some of these other guys, let me finish. Some of these guys can't handle this stuff, and it's weird because you got the ones that will have you to relax and do whatever. You got the ones that you have to cater to a lot, but you got the ones that won't let you sleep until the job is done. So that's the thing where you have to consider when you're making these decisions. So when people say, I want this, I want that, but you can't just sit there and try to change people just because you're not really understanding your own nature. You got to just understand your nature on how is that used to bring something out that's compatible with you versus you trying to force your expectations on a person.
See, and I hear you, but to me, when I was hearing what he was describing, to me, that's what I will call, quote unquote, a typical relationship. It's not about anything other than the fact that as your wife, that is my job. My job is when you aren't here, I run the household in your vision, basically. I'm raising the kids in your vision. I am, whoever the hell calls and tries to sell us something or whatever, I'm making all of those movements in your vision. It's with the leadership that you've given and the vision you've laid out for me. Even if you didn't specifically tell me something, I still know how to make the intuitive leap so that way we are still on the path you would want. And so that's what I was saying. To me, this isn't about you being, like her being like a boss or any type of particular personality at all. This is just about leadership versus submission. And you understanding the role that a wife should have and could have if you are including her, because a lot of people don't. So they think that, well, she's the wife. She shouldn't know anything. She shouldn't make any decisions. She shouldn't have any knowledge. I don't have to tell her nothing. But if you don't, then she doesn't understand. And if she doesn't understand, then she cannot be your representative in your absence.
You kind of made my point, but it's all good.
Can you read that? No, wait. Read that.
See, she can be illiterate, nurture and obey.
I think
be illiterate, nurture, and obey. I mean, what is that? Can he explain the benefits of her being illiterate?
He's just saying he
John,
doesn't care as long as she's beautiful and spreads her legs and makes him a sandwich. She doesn't have to be intelligent and know how to teach his kids anything, or like she
But
could
my
be a
whole
complete
thing is
idiot.
that you can still be laid back and not so fiery and still be intelligent. I don't get the whole. I don't know. Maybe that's.
well, hold on. Why don't wait a minute? Why don't we
Exactly.
we can fix this whole thing? That way, there's no. How about check that out? Email me at YusefWateef@gmail.com and I'll send you a link to join John Nothing. That way, there's no misunderstanding because this is the one I'm not quite. Shar, did you see? John said she can be illiterate, comma, nurture and obey. I don't know that you can have anything with a woman who's not, unless you yourself are not literate or educated. You can't have a woman who isn't, because how can she obey you? How can I look at her and say, you know what? I just finished with a client.
We should ask the dude, how old is he?
No. I want to give him the opportunity to come up. If he, that way we're not doing, because some things won't work over text. And everybody who watches knows I'm not out there attacking people. I'm just going to say if he wants to come up.
Yeah, that would probably make more sense to find out how old the person is, in my opinion, to see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, sounds pretty young.
Sound like tech type of, like you make something like that, make it illiterate, program it to nurture and obey.
Yeah, that's a hard one to, because again, like I've had situations in my life where I'll go out, do something with a client, and let's say that client gives me a document that I might need to put into a safe place in the bank. The women that I've dated or been with or loved or been loved by, I can call and say, listen, I've got to go see another client. Take this for me. She's got to be able to pick that up and go put it in the right place. Go to the bank, know what the official number is, and say, I got to deposit this for YT. You know, that's a hard step. Well, okay, he also said women don't want to be women, women want to be men. It depends on where you're shopping for women, because I tend to.
Yeah, he's talking about society, and I think he's going more into society versus, different personal things. That's what it sounds like.
So here's one, right? Compliment, don't compete with me. This one is a man's fault if this happens. You know why? Because the first time that happens, you should just leave. Like, I don't fight with women I share a bed with. If a fight ensues and it's a competition, either I tell her this can't happen or she has to go. But in my own home, why do I know so many men that are like, she always wants to compete with me? Why are you competing back? It takes two people to play the game. Hey, Stigma. Shout out to the host and to my sis, Ruby. Welcome, Stigma.
Sigma.
I don't know if you subscribed before, but you're welcome to join. Please share the chat. We have some great conversations. Shar, can you explain this to us?
Say that again. You want me to explain what?
1-800-BUILD-HER.
Oh, I was just saying, as far as having a woman exactly the way you want, it sounds like something that you would build. So you have to create that, program that.
Like a Build-A-Bear.
Right. Megabytes and all that stuff. And,
hey, they doing that.
Right.
Here's the thing, you know what?
That's what that sounds like to me.
I haven't had any successful relationships with women where we didn't sit down and I would say, what do you think I should provide for you and how do you think I should behave with you? And I would map out, here's how I need you to behave with me, publicly, privately, so there's no, and I'm going to put this out there as well. A lot of the reason that I've had successful relationships in the quote-unquote vanilla world as well as the BDSM world is because when you deal with adult-level kink and BDSM, the level of communication that you have is so far beyond anything that quote-unquote normal or vanilla couples have that we look like superstars because what they don't realize is we've communicated all this stuff before we got there. Before we left the house, before a situation arrives where I have to look at a woman and say, she speaks with my voice while I'm gone, we had that pre-game meeting. You know, and GK Sigma, when it talked about men competing with women, you're right. Feminine men feel the need to compete with the women in their life. And I think they have to compete because they don't feel like they have more options.
Well, that's another thing too. Going back to, you know, what's going on in our workforce is getting to the point to where the more feminine you are, the more you move up in positions as men. So we have to consider that as an issue. That's why I try to get people to try to own their own businesses and try not to work for many people, because you don't have to go through that problem, because that is happening on larger scales more than you think. That's why I'm teaching my son. Well, I'm putting my son in different programs to like house appraisals and things like that, because eventually it's going to be pretty tough to be working under people.
Yeah. It just gets awkward.
And it does give, you know, some of the women on some of the in the workforce, they get a false sense of power in their promotions, not understanding they're being used against their man. So these things have to be considered from both sides, to where, you know, we have to understand what's going on so we can pull our resources together and still work together, rather than saying he likes me better and you're jealous because he chose me and not you. And I mean, all this, you know, these kind of things, that's not going to help, because eventually as you get older, you're going to find yourself more alone with no resources. And I'm talking about both sides, not just women.
You know, John asked for the link and he emailed me, so we're going to make him a part of the discussion. This will be his first time coming up as a guest. He does come into the shows. He does come into the chats.
Let me go get my popcorn. I'll be right back. No, I'm joking. I'll be right back, though.
And just as any guest under my roof, I say to the people, you know, in the comment section, we treat him the same way we treat everyone else, regardless of whether or not we believe in what they say. We're going to look for quality discussion points. Let's see if you got the email. Link sent. Let's see. So what I'm also going to do is show you guys, let's see. I don't know if anyone has seen this, the hierarchy of discussion points. Anybody familiar? No? Anybody? I'd like to believe that we've been doing this here. I'm going to show you guys real quick. I'm going to show you guys something that I deal with quite a bit. That looks a little small. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can get us a bigger one. Let's see. Here we go. This is something that I think makes the discussions that we get to have here profitable when we talk about things like money, and beneficial to everybody, because we get to have talks about things and we really get to go deep. Here's what I always do, and this is something that I've always guided us through. This is refuting the central argument, refutation, counter-argument, contradiction. Responding to tone is where things get ugly. Ad hominem attacks, name calling. Those are the things that we just don't do here. That's how everybody gets to have a say in the matter. That's why everybody gets to really voice their opinion. And having said that, let's see. I thought I saw. There we go. I thought I saw him in the. John, did you get the link? Okay, well, that's awkward. But going back to the original, there we go. I don't know how you keep getting popped. Wait a minute, Reigning Woman, who everybody loves. You said that can't be good. Oh, because they are feminine males. I think that's what she was replying to, because they are feminine males. Yeah. Yeah, you find that quite a bit. That's why. That's why. That's the whole why right there. And let's see. Why do I keep what's happened? John, I thought I clicked you in. I apologize if I'm not. If I'm doing something wrong here, let me see if. There, John, can you hear me? John? John,
Hello?
good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
Okay. We had a couple of questions on some things, but because it's my show, I want to go first, and I really want to ask if you can delve into the point you made about she can be illiterate, nurture, and obey, and we want to give you the time to really help us understand what you meant there.
Well, my perspective is I don't necessarily feel as though it's just about priorities for me. I prioritize nurturing and obeying above her being able to be literate. Reading and writing is how I perceive literacy, and that's how I see it. I prioritize nurturing, and when that goes away, I feel as if even if she were to be literate, that can lead to her being more, I see things differently than you, and combativeness. I'm young, but I think that.
How old are you? Because you said I'm young, so I wouldn't have brought your age into it because I respect everyone's opinion at any age here. How old are you?
Well, I'm 23.
Okay, and that gives us a lot of context, right, Art?
Yep. Yeah, but I understand what he's saying, though. So mainly, I would have to, we just have to ask more questions to get more clarity. So, are you trying to say that you didn't want her to be intelligent?
No, I mean, I feel like there's different types of intelligence. She don't have to necessarily be like book smart, or she don't necessarily have to, have the same intelligence in the same areas, or I feel like she can be intelligent, but it doesn't necessarily have to become in a form of being literate. There's other forms of intelligence I feel like she can have, and that's how I kind of see it.
So to try to get some clarity, and I hope I'm not jumping in front of everybody else, but I'm trying to get some clarity. So are you just trying to say that you think that the family concept has been put on the back burner, and bringing more of the educational aspect to jump in front of the family? Are you saying that's your issue?
Yeah, I believe that too. I believe that family has been put on the back burner. I feel like women have, especially black women, have prioritized the educational aspect instead of the family aspect of the home. And I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit of greed, a little bit of selfishness, which but at the same time, I feel like that's the reason why we are in the state that we're in, because of the lack of priorities over a woman being nurturing and being obedient to a man, and her feeling like she can be equal to a man, and that all these concepts are coming out of the lack of prioritizing the home, prioritizing a woman, prioritizing a man, in her life.
I'm assuming that you have a career, correct?
No.
Or what kind of career would you want?
What I want?
Yes.
Maybe I'm a person who's more so interested in like a trade, working hands on.
Okay, whatever career. What career would that be?
Like, for example, being an electrician.
Okay, so say for example, you have. Let's think big. You got I'm talking like Yusef now. Let's think big here. You got your own electric company, and you got all kinds of employees working under you. You got it all set. Now the question is, you don't have to worry about going on your grind or anything like that. You got money coming in, you got good business. How would it, in your mind, how would a typical day in your, you know, your future marriage look like once you get the woman you want? How would that go between you two? What would you do and what would she do?
Well, obviously she would be providing for the things, you know, the house-wise, you know, take cooking, cleaning, traditional basically, you know. And then of course I wouldn't mind taking on the more out of the house responsibilities.
So you're
You know?
traditionalist.
Yes, I think that's the ideal best way to handle it.
Okay,
You know?
Yusef, your witness. No, I'm joking. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your answers.
John, are you a family man?
Yes, I believe, yes. I believe, yeah. And the ideals of that, yeah.
No, let me back up. Are you married or do you have children rather now?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think it would be important for your wife to have at least the same level of formal education that you do?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't believe in a woman needing formal education. I feel like everything she needs to learn about is pertaining to her role of serving a man.
Okay.
That's to me, that's all the education she needs. Anything outside of that is not necessary. It's not essential. Nurturing and obeying, I feel like, are essential traits and things that she needs to incorporate in her life, not necessarily. I mean, it's optional more so. I'm not saying she shouldn't have it. I'm just saying it's optional. It shouldn't be a priority above the family-oriented things.
Are you in a religion or anything? Any type of a group or anything?
Religion?
Like, are you part of any kind of religious group or anything?
I mean, I do identify as Christianity, but
Okay.
I don't. Yeah.
And are you in the South?
No, I'm actually from Chicago now.
You're in the Chi. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to get some understanding here on, and basically, how did you get this concept? I'm curious.
This is, I mean, I feel like I acknowledge it in what is lacking and what's currently happening, and I also see what was present and recognize what was present in other generations that is slowly starting to, be, eliminated.
Now, are you able to confirm that this kind of lifestyle occurred with your grandparents or your parents or great grandparents?
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
So my other question is, if this is the life that you want, at 23, I assume you're done with high school, right?
Is that what?
You're done with high school, correct?
Correct.
Are you in college or university?
No.
Have you finished a college or university degree?
No. I said I was going to trade. That's more so what I'm interested in.
Okay, let me back up. Are you in a fundamental or a traditional apprenticeship program? I have friends who are electricians and such. Are you in an apprenticeship program?
No, not currently. No.
Okay, so can you see that there may be a problem between not having a degree, not being in an apprenticeship program to earn that money, and providing a world where your wife or mother of your children doesn't need to be able to contribute intellectually to your home? Can you see that maybe that those two things can work against each other?
I never said that she couldn't provide intellectually. I just said there's different aspects. I don't feel like that's like a priority that she should have. I feel like a priority should be family.
Then I apologize if I didn't articulate that correctly. What I mean is, do you believe that you should, on a fundamental level, be able to financially, and I'm talking just money here, provide her with a world that didn't need her to have the level of education you did, because you're able to provide her with all those resources?
Yes.
So you understand, and by the way, I wasn't kidding when I said, I have a deep respect for things like electricians and blue collar things, because I have one of my best friends. We did a video called Blue Collar Words of Wisdom, which was a very successful video. We talked about the importance of not over prioritizing formal education through university. So what I would say to you before I give the microphone to Shar is, if you aren't in college, which you don't have to do, and you aren't in a trade program to become a carpenter, electrician, or a union man, and unions have some great benefits, that it will be extraordinarily difficult for you to put any woman into a situation where you can say, all I need you to do is worry about nurturing my home, myself, and my children. Can you see that those two things, you probably won't get to have both? You won't get to have a woman who because it sounds like you want to be able to provide her everything, including the privilege of not having to have to go to university, so that all she can do is focus on you, your home, and your children. And there's nothing ignoble about that. But without having those resources available, you won't be able to purchase that level of freedom.
Now, let me ask you this: are you willing for your now we negotiate?
Art, please let him answer.
Okay.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I'm not necessarily. I'm not against that sort of way of doing it. I'm just saying that it's so, like, I feel like women are so deprived of their, what I feel like I call their God-given role, that it doesn't even make sense to get into a relationship where I feel like she has to, or she's intellectually, I don't prioritize. I prioritize her nurturing and
right. I agree with that, but what I'm saying is, can you understand that you're going to have to financially purchase that level of freedom for her? If you're providing everything, you can't have a woman who has no university education and has no more than a high school education because you want her to be a good whatever it is you need in your home, and that's good, but that you're going to have to compensate for that financially. Yeah.
I agree that I agree.
You have to have one before you'll get the other one, because I can't think of any woman that would make a decent wife, mother, girlfriend who wouldn't look at you first and say, if you want me to have no responsibility besides your children, you're going to have to make sure all of my other needs are taken care of.
Well, yeah, I agree, but here's the thing. I feel that she doesn't have to have a direct, she can help me financially indirectly than just giving me money, or her just, I feel like it's more so her indirectly help me make more money or help me be more financially affluent. I feel like it's not just her focus on one aspect. I feel like she has interests and things that she would like that will help me also,
Well, I don't want to have us dominating the microphone, and by that mean me and Art. Art, I'm going to come back to you, Sister Shar. I'd like your words.
And what is it that you would like for me to answer?
Just your thoughts, if you had any relevant questions.
I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Ruby.
It's basically exactly what I already said. Anyone who goes down this train of thought, and I've seen him comment in many other streams, so I knew exactly where he was coming from with most of what he commented, because I've seen him elaborate before. And it just comes down to, when you don't know what you don't know, and you don't understand what you don't understand. So when you have people who are older and you assume wiser, telling you something about the way the 21st century could, should, and would reasonably work, you can believe that. I don't think that the majority of people even really understand old school relationships enough to understand the dynamic that they really saw. And so their interpretation is very different than often the reality when you actually go in and really have these conversations with these people who are 80 and been married for 55 years. So, I think that this is really a discussion for the older gentleman on the panel to have with a young man who's, starting off on life. It sounds like he's kind of got a direction he would like to start going, to start building things, but, he hasn't quite even started on that path yet. So, I'm not really sure if he's even at the place where he's quite ready to be looking for a wife, let alone to know what kind of qualities he would need in his particular life when he gets there. But, I think that this is something that is for the gentleman to discuss.
Well, first of all, Ruby, I resent being called a gentleman.
I was trying to be respectful because it's your
I don't
channel.
know
You
if
know
it's
what I really think
actually-
about you. You know what I say behind the scenes. Come on now.
Art, if you want to continue down the path we were on, or if you want to address what's on the screen now.
Oh, just wanted to ask him real quickly. Are you willing? Because I think he was talking about he was going more into the college and school stuff, whatever. So, are you against her having some kind of side hustle or some job that would bring in some income, like maybe maybe you can turn the house into a daycare or something to where money is still coming in while she's doing the things that you talking about her doing?
I mean, I feel like, yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, I feel like in a modern society, it's just not really, I mean, I feel like, yeah, I would be open to that. But I also believe that what a woman provides outside of working a job could actually be more financially beneficial. See what I'm saying? A job is not regular 9 to 5, not going to pay you what you're worth. But the work that she does in the household can be worth way more than what a job can pay her.
And when do you plan on going to? I mean, do you plan on going to college or trade school?
Yeah, actually, yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. And you said you're 23?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So, all right. Just curious.
All right.
I think it's imperative that as soon as humanly possible, you enroll. What trade school do you want, by the way? We have a lot of people who watch here. I've got a lot of connections. What have you done in the past? If you had to say to someone who may be listening to this, I'm looking to become a member of a trade union, what would that union be?
Oh, wow. I don't even know. I haven't dug that deeply. I looked into some apprenticeships, stuff like that, but yeah, I'm still in the process of that. Yeah, so
Do you work now?
I'm in between jobs and stuff like that right now.
Okay. I want to mind my words. At 23 years old, being unemployed, not being in a trade school or a union program, and not being in a college or a university program, I can tell you as someone who is not necessarily old, but at 42 and a half years old, I can tell you I've seen enough life cycle.
That's old.
If you do not find a formal path to get on, immediately you run the risk of missing the boat. Wandy said something. She said, what are you providing for the family? Well, I think that kind of dovetails with you got to have some source of, you can't just have a normal income. And I want to be clear about this, John. The path that you are on with the wife that you say you want, and I believe any man should work for what he wants. If you want a wife that doesn't have to have an education, whose only priority is taking care of you, your house, and your children, fine. But you must be able to pay for it. Earlier, do you remember when somebody said, is money my religion? There's a reason. Money purchases for me the things that other people may not be comfortable with me having. People aren't going to be comfortable with you having that kind of life and a wife. They'll actually work against you. You can only make up for that with money by being able to say, yeah, you might not like it, but I can provide her the lifestyle that I want her to have so she doesn't have any other problems. Wandy said, can you afford to support a woman who will nurture you in the way you want? This is coming from a woman who I know. She's telling you it's not cheap and it's not free. Oh, thank you, Mary. Nicole Michelle is.
Well, I want to respond to that. I want to respond to that.
Go ahead.
I feel like her being a nurturing woman should not be tied to my financial state. It should be something that's given off the front. I don't feel like that's right.
You don't understand. Should I take a? I mean,
Art, go for it, Art.
What he's trying to tell you though is that, I mean, you said that you were going to be an electrician, or that's what you want to do. That's why I said think big. But let's bring it down to just, you finish your trade school and got your license and you do electrical work, and that's some good money. But when you're talking about having a wife and children and a home, it, there's lots of things that comes with that, to where it's going to have to really come out of your pocket, along with your security as a man and the trust. So these are all the kind of things that helps you to do what you do as a man. Because I know you're talking about her and what she needs to do with the nurturing and all that. But as far as what you are doing, it kind of like determines what she's going to do. I think that's what Shar was getting at as well, is that based on what you are doing, that's what be able to define your reality. So when you're not able to provide the stuff, because, and some of us, I'm on my second marriage, and, I know what it's like. So basically, I had my first wife was a stay-at-home mom, and I was the only breadwinner. But the thing was, I had some years under my belt. So I was able to generate enough.
Hello, I think we're.
What happened? Is he going?
I think we kind of blinked in and out.
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Now
you.
I can.
Oh, okay. I'll wrap it up. I said, but the thing was, no matter what, I was able to still have enough money, and, like spending money for her needs, along with things that was for my child, the home, and everything. There's a lot of things that come with it: car, insurance, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So what he's trying to tell you is that you may want to consider, if this person you're going to marry is going to be with you, she may have some kind of level of education to help you, just in case things get kind of crazy. That's all. I think that's what I got out of it.
Let me also try it in a different direction, John. Maybe this direction is a little bit easier for me to articulate, because it's my responsibility to get a concept to you. When you said her nurturing shouldn't be attached to your financial situation, is that what you said? I want to make sure I don't misquote you.
Correct.
Okay. There are a few things that as a young man, I want you to learn from older men like Art and I. I'm going to say something that's going to be very controversial. I'm going to say something people are going to get angry about that's 100% true. The word should has no room in the vocabulary of a successful man. We take the world as it is and bend it to our will. Should doesn't get to play a role. I should be able to leave my door unlocked when I leave home, but I'll get robbed. I should be able to be myself, where I could play video games all day, just make a lot of money and weigh 300 pounds and be just as attractive to women. Those words don't get to exist for men who want what they want in the world. A woman's ability to feel safe around you, it's more than a thick bicep muscle. It's more than how much I can deadlift or squat, or how good I am in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament strangling another man unconscious, or being strangled. She has to feel comfortable knowing that when the bad times come, maybe I could fight off a werewolf. Werewolves are rare. But what happens when the interest rate changes on our mortgage? See, that's something that really happens in life. A good mother is going to think about that, because she's not ever going to put herself in a situation to open her heart or her legs for a man that she doesn't know can't keep the house heated, the refrigerator full. Okay? If you aren't financially able to do that, the best and brightest, most feminine and most nurturing women won't consider you as a husband. That's when they end up with that guy who might be a dirtbag but can provide for her and her children. And that's a historical trade-off that women have made since the beginning of time. Don't make a woman make that trade-off with you. Be one of those men that can say, I'm going to choose from the women around me because I can be a good, stable provider. And I'm not talking about casual sex girl. I'm talking about the woman who you look at as being comfortable as the mother of your children. If you can look her in the eye and say, I wasn't part of that brain drain of men who were looking for magic women in another country. I'm going to go out there, earn and save enough so that I can be in a situation where you don't have to worry about anything else, so you feel comfortable being feminine and nurturing around me. Because women don't work that way. Maybe you can think about, maybe they should. It's a nice word, but women don't really work that way. They don't tend to open themselves up emotionally and physically over the long term for a man who can't protect and provide. Maybe you can do what's called hijacking a woman for a little while, but eventually she's gonna look around and say, my youth and beauty, which are my two strongest assets, are running away. Do I want to stay with John, who may be a decent man, or do I want to go with, maybe it could be YusefWateef and one of his dirtbag friends, who might be kind of abusive, and they may not be the nicest of men, but I know my children will have a good quality education paid for, and as I grow into an old woman, I'll still have all my needs taken care of when my youth and beauty no longer get me those freebies in life.
If I could add something to that.
Dear Ruby, go ahead.
Because the thing is that by all means, if you think and you want a woman who has no standards, so as in, just the fact that you're willing to provide her anything, she should, shut up, spread her legs, make you a sandwich, and be content with whatever you give her. No, I didn't say you said that. I'm just saying, right? I'm going to the other polar extreme opposite here. If you want that, it's fine. You will be able to find that. But the thing is, what you won't be able to find is that woman who's going to do all of that, be all submissive, be basically your ideal woman, and also be gorgeous. You're not going to find that. And that's where I think that, you have to be realistic, because the woman who is gorgeous has a lot of options without ever being submissive, period. She can get a pretty decent quality of life with a pretty decent, good-looking guy who will treat her pretty decently without ever being submissive because she's gorgeous. So, I think what happens is you do have to look at the fact that there are absolutely trade-offs in life. And you have to recognize that what you are willing to provide and what you do provide, what just naturally you provide, if you aren't a 10 genetically, right? And so, you want to make up with that, as far as other factors, what you provide financially, what you can provide in other means of support and, fulfilling her dreams and whatever, what you can provide, honestly, as a good father figure to her children and whatever. All those factors are going to come in to play, sure. But again,
let me just do a quick jump in here before you get too far away from it. What Ruby said was more true than we think. Nobody rides for free, because as far as I know, and anyone in the comment section or here on my panel, feel free to correct me, the most beautiful women I've ever met never developed a secondary set of skills that fed them and kept a man's attention after their beauty faded.
It's true. When you go to tens, I mean, I talk about this. This is actually evolutionary. See, you said you don't believe evolutionary psychology exists. This is actually the topic I wanted to talk about. We're going to do it in round two. Was exactly this. That's why I wanted to talk about that topic, because human beings were programmed for certain things, and women, just like men, a man who's a 10 never has to learn how to commit. He never has to learn how to really honestly be good at a job. He doesn't have to learn how to do any of those things, and he will be able to spread his seed everywhere. Okay. A woman who's a 10, same thing. She will have men clamoring to take care of her for a shot at maybe the fact that they can mix their genetics with hers. That sounds messed up, but this is reality. This is our underlying programming. Right. And so when you get a woman who was a 5, right? Now she knows she can't trade on her looks. She knows she can't. So yeah, she probably will have an education and whatever, but her non-sexual traits in relationships will probably also be very strong. She'll know how to cook. She'll know how to clean. She'll know how to really make a man feel good. She'll know how to massage your feet. She'll know how to do different things because she knows that she doesn't have her looks to trade off of, right? And so you've got a balance between the 1 and the 10 somewhere, where it's like, okay, well, what are you willing to sacrifice a little bit of, or other than that, how do you get yourself to the place where you have to sacrifice nothing? Because you're going to have to get to a place. You don't deserve that by the will of the fact that, well, your name's John and you're cool. Like, no, that's not enough.
Let me pivot onto two different things. One, Mary W said something. She doesn't have to be college educated. I think we covered that, Mary. I think he's correct. She doesn't. And we are correct in saying he would prefer that she's not, because he thinks that may get in the way of her being able to be a good provider. And she's more willing to follow and let you lead. So here's where really the rubber meets the road. Give her a reason to follow you. Your resume has to already be deep enough ahead of time so that when you meet this young, great girl to be the mother of your children, She can look at your resume and say, here's a man who is respected by men who are respected. Here's a man who has himself together financially, who has himself together physically. And I can feel comfortable just letting him tell me what to do, because before he met me, and that's important. I tell men all the time, you can't get ready when it's game time. You got to be ready when you meet her.
Yeah, if I could get in there a little bit, and
Go for it.
I tell them what I tell my students. I'm a little bit more brutal with my students. Be slightly. Well, one is this one's a little slight. I mean, this is like more gentle. You know, you may want to, like, if you want to do the electrician thing, I wouldn't put the whole woman being educated aside, because the thing is, you might want to start asking questions like, okay, you got your education, but are you willing to do A, B, and C? You know, you have to really get an understanding, because you can't just assume that just because a woman's educated, she still can't do domesticated stuff. All right. So that's one that you want to think about. But here, I'm gonna be real, man, because I'm always talking about power and building and being your boss. If the stuff that you just described, you have to do more than just be an electrician. Okay, you got to do more than that, especially 2020 coming and longer and further and further. I'm not saying change careers, but I'm saying you have to do something way on a larger scale these days to have all that you described. Because basically, if your home is not happy, it's going to be hell. If you're not able to provide based on your will. And think about it, you know, when you get home, that's supposed to be the heaven where you rest your head. It's not supposed to be a place to where it's going to be just as worse as the place where you came from. So I want you to consider those kind of things, man, because, you know, we all been there.
You know, Ruby said her second smart thing of the night when she said you got to look at some trade-offs. I'm going to give you an example of trade-offs. Are you familiar with that concept, John, by the way? John, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Are you familiar with the concept of trade-off?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm always going to try and use myself as the example, right? Here's what a trade-off looks like. You see that picture? Looks impressive, doesn't it? Me throwing that big-ass kettlebell around, lifting weights. I'm 5 feet 6 inches tall. I learned as a kid, women like tall men. Now, I can be smart, have a clever word game, be able to make her laugh in a conversation, but physically, I'm not a tall man. Okay, what's my trade-off? I'm going to get under this squat rack. I'm going to get under this bench press. I'm going to get under this heavy-ass kettlebell and throw it around like a piece of candy. Because I might not be tall, but I'm strong as a mule. And I can pick a girl up and throw her in the air and catch her, which I've done many times, especially big girls. They like that. That's what a trade-off is. So women can look at me and go, you know, he's actually shorter than I am, but damn, look at him. He hugged me and his arms felt like these iron bars around me. When he saw me, he dropped under me and picked me up and threw me in the air and caught me, and I giggled like a schoolgirl. See, that's a trade-off. I know what I don't have, so I'm going to make up for it. Nothing is free. Did that make sense, by the way, as a concept, trade-off?
Yes, I see what you're saying.
If I'm losing, you say so. Because I'm talking with you, not at you.
Okay, can I say something?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times the burden of proof is on the man. And I like I said, I don't mind that, but I feel like the reason that came about out of a time where women were more virtuous, and that is not really relevant to today. So, and also, I feel like when men are selecting women, they're not necessarily they have to be more lenient about the women they pick. And the guys who are like the 1% who has a lot of money, it's when they come into a relationship, is what the man provides is more it's more obvious. You it's more tangible. But what the woman supposed to provide is not as tangible. Therefore, she has a lot more leniency in not bringing much of anything to the relationship. Whereas the man, it's very obvious and it's very apparent what we have to bring to the relationship.
So you really don't think there's any kind of benefits in marriage these days?
No, not as it was before. No.
Yeah, I know. I'm listening now. Okay.
So here's what I would say to you. If we just got done saying that there are all these things that you have to do as a man, what I want to get across to you under no uncertain terms, you're right. It's not fair. It's just not fair. It's not. Okay. Deal. I will still say something, and I'm going to go on my sexist bag here. Feel free if anybody wants to come after me on this one. Do you know how fortunate you are to be born a man? Because it's hard, but it's changeable. Do you understand how unfair the world is to women? That we're sitting here talking about our choices with women. How many women get to sit around on a panel and talk about their choices of men? You and I can change our world so much faster than a woman can. So I don't care how hard you have it. I don't care how unfair it is. I don't care how painful it is. I genuinely don't. I'll help you change it. I won't listen to you complain. I'll listen to a woman complain. I'll listen to a woman yell and scream and blah, 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 blah. I won't listen to that from a man because it is hard for us. So what? That's why I get, again, I don't mean to be angry, but I can't listen to you tell me how unfair it is, because we knew that when we woke up this morning. We're men. We're men. It's going to be unfair. That's it. There is no happy ending to that statement. Be willing to do the work. Become the man who gets to have a wife who has no cares in the world, that you're going to marry the fresh out of high school, 19-year-old girl, and she's going to do nothing but provide you with strong children, nurture them, and take care of you in your home. If you want it, go fight for it. But you don't get to be 23, unemployed, not in college, not in a trade or union program. It's not going to work.
Yeah, you just gotta go ahead and do it, brother. Even just walking. I mean, sometimes
that shit costs.
Sometimes it sounds weird, but sometimes you just want to pass by the building on weekends and look at it. Like, this is the place where I'm going to start my future. You know, you gotta take a snapshot in your brain to really, get yourself ready, because that world is out there and we don't even know how much it's going to be. But the fact that you have manhood and the fact that you have some kind of abilities, you go by that. The rest will come. I mean, do you plan on doing anything in 2020 as far as your career or anything?
Yeah, I do. I do have plans of developing in the trade industry.
What I would suggest, man, while you're waiting, because I'm not sure if you do the trade in the spring, but you might want to work on some kind of business type training online. They have different business business training online, to where you'd be able to take your trade and form it into a business. Because I think you gotta, the key thing is you gotta start gathering your tools first, and then later on be ready to use them when the time comes.
Can I ask you, do you still live at home?
By at home, you mean like, yeah, I still live, yeah.
Let me back up. Does the rent or the mortgage bear your name or someone else's name?
Someone else's name.
Okay. So we got to fix that, right? We understand. Okay, Mary just had a solution that I personally don't agree with, but I know a lot of other men it worked for. Like, I have some friends that joined the Marines and said it is the greatest thing since pasteurized milk, because it gave them direction, power, and a skill set. Is that something that you would consider?
I think I have considered the Marines before, but I just never really appealed to me that much.
Okay, and I don't just mean the Marines. I'm just using it as a general
military. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I believe as John develops himself, some of his views will change. That's what Wandy says, and I agree with Wandy.
Yeah, when you get older, it's going to change, bro.
Here's what I would say. We know you have a stable internet connection. Okay. Are you on a computer or are you on your cell phone?
I'm on phone.
Okay. Do you have a computer or no?
Yeah, I do.
Good, good. So I think you may have stepped into something that you didn't really plan on. Okay. So now I've just spent time giving you for free what a lot of men pay me to give you. You just got the benefit of two guys, me and Art, who together represent decades of successful life experience, right? So now I want to give you a particular challenge, and I want to put this out there clearly, directly, openly. Okay, I'm going to give you some links. I'm just going to put them on the screen. You can come back later and look at them. I want to challenge you to learn something new. I'm going to challenge you to look up MOOC classes, and if you want to talk to me privately, we can do that. That's fine. I did an article once called Retro Learning. See, one of my little secrets to success as a secret ninja who has skills that people don't know about, MOOC classes will allow you to go online and mostly for free, take different skill sets. Massive open online course. You've got FutureLearn, Udemy.com, edX.org, Khan Academy. I want you to go back and I want you to go to my website and I want you to read this article, right? At YusefWateef.com. I want you to read Retro Learning. And then I want you to send me an email. Tell me the top 3 things that you want to learn. Do you want to learn something that's going to help you in the future, like coding? Do you want to learn something like business management? Do you want to learn what I do? Editing, reading, writing. But I challenge you to sometime over the next week, from this Sunday to next Sunday, to send me an email and say, "What? Here's what I'm going to be studying online." Because you're not in school, because you're not in a trade program, and because you're not working right now, you should be spending 8 hours a day learning a new skill to get yourself out of where you are to where you want to be, to get the woman you want to have. Now, here's the crazy part. As you become better, right? And Wandy said something that's more true than she realizes. You'll learn as you make yourself better, getting the woman will fall by the wayside. When you start to become a man who's respected by men, when you start to read the books, when you start to gain wisdom, when you start to develop those skills, you'll realize, oh, I don't have to go looking for the kind of women I want. I'll make myself a desirable man and they'll just come to me. I'm telling you things that aren't going to happen in the near future. I'm telling you things that are going to happen after you've done the hard work. Does anybody, Wandy, Shar, Art, has any of what I said seemed unfair or unintentionally too aggressive?
Man, if my mom was living, she would kidnap him, feed him, and tell him the same stuff you told him.
Kidnap him?
Yeah,
that was actually excellent. That was excellent.
Yeah.
And you're lucky Wandy's not up here because Wandy, I said 8, Wandy said 10. I'm trying to give you some time to at least go out and hang out with your buddies at night.
I mean, the thing is, you gotta put the work in early, so you don't have to put too much work in when you're too old.
Yeah,
you know, because that's the thing. You got too many people that's really, really on their grind because of something they didn't do when they were younger.
Yeah,
and to believe it or not, I do. I mean, I teach and everything. Got 24 years or whatever, but there's still some other stuff that I wish I would have done to make it a lot more easier.
Now watch this. Even after what you just said, Art. Think about the way you were on your grind under 30. Could you replicate that level of bullheaded aggression to get what you wanted?
Man, not at all.
Write this. Check this out. I have a younger cousin who said something that he thought was going to be, thank you for the compliment, Wandy. He said something that he thought was going to be an insult. My younger cousin said to me, now I'm 42 and a half. He's in his mid-20s. He said, you don't even work that hard anymore. I said, of course not. I did all my hard work before I was 30. I'm 42 and a half years old. I'm going to spend the rest of my days lifting weights, slinging dick, reading books about philosophy, having fun, helping young men learn how the game of life works. I'm not out there trying to work 10 hours a day like I did when I was a financial professional. I'm not taking a 10 o'clock meeting, 10 p.m. meeting with a client because he just got off an airplane and I need to get that commission check down before midnight. I get to have a silly mustache. That's what time I am in my life. I'm in silly mustache zone. Mary said, you can't easily be nurturing as a woman if you're stressed and scared about financial issues. Let me tell you something. Nothing makes a woman's vagina drier than stress. But if she can look at you and when you come home and look at you and say, he just has it all taken care of, she can just be a girl. And I said that word specifically. She can just be a girl. She can look at you and hold up a painting your kid did and say, look at what our kid did today. And look at what this other baby did. Oh, and guess what? We got another one coming, and you're not going to be stressed out. You're going to hug her and say, oh my goodness, I can't wait to figure out what to name this one. You don't get those privileges if she's not financially taken care of.
You know, could I say something? Because, I was just talking to my husband, right? So, and he was like, you know what I was doing at 23? Right? And I'm like, oh, a hell of a lot more than this. And he was like, oh yeah, I already had my own car. I'd already left home a long time ago. You know what I mean? Almost done my education at this point. Like, the thing is, what we have to recognize, and I'm not just going to say this to John, because I say this to the young women around these days as well. There seems to be a lack of understanding and empathy for the other side, but there seems to be a lack of clear vision that you all are behind, just as a general rule. But see, the thing is everyone can only see the other side is behind. The other side hasn't gotten to where they should be. But, they don't see themselves as not having gotten to that place. And, I've spoken about this before, but, like attracts like. So if you are in a place where basically like everything that you want your life to be is some future dated thing that you haven't started yet, then what you're currently going to attract to you is not what you hope that you'll be able to have in the future. You're going to attract exactly what you have now. And a lot of times when we just keep seeing the same woman or the same man over and over and over again, then it gives us this kind of flawed perception that, well, that must be all that there is out there. But that's often not the case. Oftentimes we're attracting where we're at. We're attracting what we're about currently. And so if we change where we're at and we change what we're about, we also just naturally change. We change our circles. We change the things that we're doing. We change the energy that we're putting out there into the world. And so we change what we notice and we change who notices us. And I think that is an important thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that this generation overall, like when they make jokes, they're not really jokes, that 30 is the new 20 and 40 is the new 20. And it's like there's a massive delay. You go back to your grandparents' time, like, damn, at 16 to 18 at the latest, people were leaving home. That was it. They had to go fend for themselves.
Yep.
You're not seeing that now. You're seeing like, okay, at like 30 something, parents are starting to go, all right, like, are you leaving sometime soon? Right. So there's a delayed maturity that's happening, and that's happening on both sides. And I'm not going to blame the men. Well, if the men would have just grown up faster, the women would too. No, there's something else going on that's affecting both sides. We have to recognize that there are some women who have moved. They have grown up. They are wives ready to find their husband, but you have to become a husband who's ready to find your wife. And you haven't gotten there, so you haven't found that wife yet.
The game is cold. Ruby, can you read what Mary wrote?
Sure. My soon-to-be ex-husband lost his job. I had to pay for everything, and after time, he refused to get a job. I unfortunately lost my nurturing nature because I had to constantly worry about finances. Well, yeah. You have to pick up a trade and start now so you can have this dream. That's the reality of things. See, That's the thing, that it's not about you losing your job, because a lot of men, like women, have told the story. Men go, see, this is supposed to be, you're supposed to be with each other through better or worse. But it wasn't about him losing his job. It wasn't about her picking up the slack. It was about him losing his ambition and his motivation. Right? And maybe he never had it, and she just met him at a time where everything was just working because it had all been handed to him, and it was only under this stressor she saw what he was really made out of. But that is something that is incredibly attractive to women, is motivation and ambition. So you lose your job. Like, I don't care if you got to work at Tim Hortons right now, whatever it is, you got to do what you got to do to help make ends meet. If you're putting everything on me and you don't care anymore, you're not even going to look for a job. You're not even going to try anymore. You're not going to try to, I don't know, reverse even tasks. So now I got to cook, clean, take care of the kids. I got to do all the laundry. And on top of that, I'm the one who's got to go out and work. And you got to what? Again. But she's supposed to what? Also nurture you, also love you, also want to sleep with you. Like, we have to look at it from the fact of, even if roles are slightly reversed, because some women they're go-getters, they're career women and whatever. They don't want a man who wants to sit in his boxers all day and eat cereal and he ain't doing shit. He's not about shit, right? They want a man who's about something. No, it's true, right? I mean,
Well,
to be realistic.
I think we may have lost him. He may have lost his connection, and that's fine. I'll give him a few minutes to come back. I want to give applause on two different levels. One, first, I'm glad to have made a new friend. Shar, you're always welcome. The door is always open. We should have an advice session. I'd love to give you some of the stories my friends come to me with.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, hey, John. Remember, the advice we gave you wasn't free. Like, that wasn't a handout. That was me telling you some things that I hope you can benefit from, then giving you the resources to act upon your new information and not complain about it and say what you don't have. Because in 6 months, I need to see progress. I need to hear you say, oh, I did a 3-month online program about business, and I'm doing another 3-month online program about this, and I'm going to ask for the receipt. Don't come back to our house talking about how you're in the same situation now, because you can't say you didn't know. Now you bear the burden of knowledge.
Curse.
You know. Okay? Ruben, thank you so much for taking time out of what must be a busy day of laying on the couch and smoking a hookah pipe.
So, he's so ignorant, and I keep showing up, and I can't blame anyone but myself, because I had to click on the link, right? So...
But you know what? You have friends that
you've been played.
They like you.
Yeah, everyone on this panel likes me, but you. See how that works?
Be nice to your Leo sister.
Thank you. God, you see how ignorant he is to me, Shar? He's like so nice to you and stuff, and then me, Ruby. Ugh, that girl. Like, he's so terrible to me.
You gotta be agreeable.
I am so agreeable, Art. I am offended you would even say that to me. What?
Oh, I gotta tell you, until I saw it with my own eyes, and for the people watching, if you came in late, go back to the beginning and watch this. Art started with a blank piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
That was a blank piece of paper. And when he told me that this is what he likes to do during his conversations, I was like, that sounds kind of lame. And then I went and watched some of his live streams. I was like, wait, you really like have these deep conversations and create stunning artwork. Oh my goodness. By the way,
incredible, right?
We got, BK, if I had a prize to give you, I would. BK from the Rockies hit the nail on the head. He said it twice. He said, I think that's Baldwin.
Yep.
Because we talked about people who were part of a brain drain that had to leave the United States to get what they wanted. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to everybody that supports the channel. Click show more at the bottom. You can see all my information there as far as when you want to drop $5 for coffee.
Brazilian coffee?
Yeah, that short coffee that kind of kicks you in the scrotum. Bang!
Oh, take it down with an acai berry drink, so you're good.
I want to let I want to let Shar, if you had any parting gifts for us.
Party. Well, as far as the invite for the advice, That's no problem. And if you have anyone that wants some advice, they can remain anonymous. I do that because people kind of poke fun at people. So no names are said. And I'll give you some honest advice. What I give you online will not be the same that I would write you back with, because some things are personal and I'll take it out of the letter. I won't use it online, but just to give you some of the information that other people that are listening can use. So just to let you know.
Okay.
And I've subbed to you, and I look forward to checking out your content.
And then we've got Classic Ruby. This is her channel. It's struggling. It's struggling.
The
Maybe
channel
we'll-
is not struggling. Thank you very much. It's limité, okay?
Did you say limited?
Limited release.
It's limited. It's limited release, like those plush Yoda dolls that never came out. Limited like that.
See, and this is why I don't like you. Every time I click, I'm like, oh, that guy, crap. I thought this was someone else's link, but here we are, and you know, so.
So when are you gonna have another channel, and when are you gonna invite everybody to your house for a playground session?
I'm probably not gonna do live streams ever, just being real.
Really?
Yeah, not a live stream fan. I've never done a live stream. All of my stuff is pre-recorded content that I heavily edit and, you know, add a bunch of interesting stuff in there and whatever. So next year, January 2020, we're going to see something. I swear. This time I'm being serious, guys. Serious.
You said that on January. Yeah, you said
it. Shut up, Art. Shut up. Tattletales.
I was looking too. I kept like, where is it?
I know. I'm going to do it for real. I promise.
Look at Art Mooster TV. This is a guy he's doing the work. He's doing the work. He says I'm an artist and then shows you that did that say gout? Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, I did one on gout. A lot of people are going to be complaining about gout after these holidays. So, matter of fact, they're doing it now. So they got to click on that video to see how to get through it.
And I say that to say this. I'm going to click end broadcast. Everybody behind the curtain can stay for a few minutes. Love you all. Everybody have a great, we're in that taint between New Year's and Christmas. Enjoy it.
Oh, they got black artists on the